It was from the Cataclysm. I can illuminate the technological tree. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276, Nuclear Torpedo. One more chapter. The cannons arrived before the people. The precise metal storm caught the Proxima civilization off guard. The Proxima flagship, which had been showing off its might in the Golden Crow fleet with its range advantage, no longer had the energy to launch another attack. Countless lasers and electromagnetic cannons were fired from its surface to intercept the incoming electromagnetic cannon projectiles. However, due to software problems, many projectiles still passed the interception net it laid and hit its surface directly. The explosions and flames continued to appear on its outer armor, showing the power of the close-range nuclear explosion to the fullest. Just a face-to-face encounter. The Proxima flagship, which was alone, fell into crisis. At this time, Baekseoan also reacted. In line with the fine tradition of taking advantage of his illness to kill him, Baekseoan immediately gave an order: change direction and launch a counterattack. The Golden Crow A-21 battleship drew a smooth arc in the universe and rushed directly towards the gradually retreating Proxima flagship. Of course, the Proxima fleet would not watch its flagship die in vain. Almost at the same time, countless shells and laser beams were fired in the direction of the human fleet. I don't know whether it was accurate or not, but it was a huge show. In an instant, the war entered a white-hot stage. On the battlefield, countless electromagnetic cannon projectiles were flying everywhere, and high-energy laser beams swept towards the enemy ships and electromagnetic cannon projectiles like rain. And in this extremely chaotic battlefield, a Golden Crow battleship went upstream against the endless electromagnetic cannon projectiles and high-energy laser beams, and rushed directly towards the Proxima flagship. Zero's terror was fully revealed at this time. The 1,500-meter-long battleship, like a swimming fish, kept moving through the hail of bullets with the help of electromagnetic guns and high-energy laser beams. It constantly solves oncoming attacks and closes the distance between itself and the enemy flagship. Baekseoan stared at the holographic projection in front of him, which was constantly flashing red light. 60,000 kilometers. High-energy ion beam weapon. Start charging. 55,000 kilometers. Charging completed. 50,000 kilometers. Team Bay, the range is enough. Hang Fan's information flashed on the holographic projection. At this moment, the scene of his own starship exploding continuously flashed before his eyes. Fire. Baekseoan issued his own order with a grim face. In the distance, a flash of fire suddenly appeared on the exhausted Proxima flagship. Boom. A violent explosion rose from the inside of the enemy flagship armor, instantly tearing a huge gap in the tight armor. In the gap, countless damaged parts sprayed out with the airflow. But the enemy ship's escape did not slow down at all, but accelerated. Damn, isn't the fusion reactor here? Baekseoan looked at the picture in the holographic projection, with a bit of disappointment between his eyebrows. Unfortunately, his luck was a bit bad. How long will it take to prepare the second ion beam? Hang Fan's response came immediately. 10 seconds. 49,500 kilometers. 50,000 kilometers. The numbers displayed in the holographic projection kept jumping. The difference in the maneuverability of the starships was clear at a glance, and the distance between the two widened again. In a blink of an eye, the enemy flagship escaped from the range. Baekseoan's face changed slightly. It's too late, Team Bay. The second ion beam is fully charged. The message sent by Hang Fan jumped in front of his eyes, looking at the enemy flagship whose trajectory was gradually tilted, and thinking of the little things he had experienced with his old teammate Wu Ran. Baekseoan suddenly felt a surge of anger in his heart. Hang Fan, let's catch up before the message was sent. A highlighted prompt popped up in front of him. Jinwoo A-21, you are too far forward. Retreat immediately. This was the order from Zaozuji, the commander of the First Fleet. Baekseoan looked a little dazed, and he glanced at the star map beside him. As Zaozuji said, in the pursuit just now, he had unknowingly deviated from the main force and became a lone army deep into the enemy point. He took a deep breath of deep sea liquid and forcibly suppressed the complex emotions in his heart. Jinwu A21 received. Start retreating. The withdrawal of Jinwu A21 was insignificant to the entire battlefield. LV Yongchang, who was in the flagship Earth, looked at the enemy flagship that was shaky in the projection and heading towards Proxima B, and a hint of cruelty appeared in his eyes. You killed so many of us and you still want to go back alive. 0. Prepare to use nuclear torpedoes. As soon as the voice fell, a line of prompts appeared in the holographic projection. Nuclear torpedoes are ready. Do you want to launch? Nuclear torpedoes are the killer of human civilization. Academician Qian Zhengyang successfully realized Liu Yongchang's idea. A simplified version of plasma weapons with the help of a large yield directional nuclear explosion. A beam of ultra-high temperature plasma flow is created at a very short distance. The main part of the nuclear torpedo is an interstellar missile, equipped with a Hall propulsion unit of the same type as the Golden Crow battleship. The overall size is close to 20 meters. Even so, compared with a starship, its size and mass are still extremely small. Under the action of powerful thrust, it can increase its speed to 5,000 kilometers per second in just a few seconds. Such acceleration performance is terrifying. Although the fleet's maximum cruising speed can reach 10% of the speed of light, that is 30,000 kilometers per second, it is a speed that can only be achieved after long-term acceleration. In war, in order to maintain their maneuverability, the speed of starships is often greatly reduced. According to the data collected by Zero during this period, even the Proxima fleet, which is known for its maneuverability, has a maximum cruising speed of only 2,000 kilometers per second in a war state. That is why nuclear torpedoes have room to play. Under the crazy stacking of materials by Mr. Qian, the performance of this interstellar missile far exceeds Liu Yongchang's pre-design. Of course, the consequence of crazy stacking is that the output is scarce. Even Zero only produced a few dozen before setting off. Looking at the jumping prompt in front of him, Liu Yongchang retracted his distracting thoughts and solemnly issued his own orders. Launch. Earth. A faint blue flame instantly lit up on the side. Chapter 277. The tragedy of the Proxima flagship. The nuclear torpedo dragged a long blue flame at its tail and flew towards the side battlefield point. After adjusting the course, it would shut down the main engine and fly towards the target by inertia. This was the optimal way of traveling after Zero calculation. The reason was also very simple. First, there were too many interference factors in the front battlefield. The scarcity of quantity meant that it could only be used for decapitation missions. In the front battlefield full of crises, this precious nuclear torpedo might be intercepted by electromagnetic cannon projectiles or high-energy laser beams. Such a result was obviously unacceptable to Liu Yongchang. Second, better concealment. In the war with the human fleet, the Proxima civilization has developed the habit of focusing only on the front battlefield. After all, electromagnetic cannons and laser beams, including ion cannons, these conventional high-powered weapons will not turn. After shutting down the main engine, the reflection area of the nuclear torpedo is not even as good as that of an electromagnetic cannon projectile. Plus, cutting him from the side of the battlefield, LV Yongchang believes that this nuclear torpedo will definitely achieve unimaginable results. With the launch of the nuclear torpedo, the firepower of the human fleet has increased again. The planetary defense network of the Proxima fleet and the interception network composed of more than 5,000 starships are obviously not vegetarian. Even though there may be some flaws in the software, they have successfully blocked almost all the electromagnetic cannon projectiles launched by the human fleet with their numerical advantage. Only a few scattered projectiles passed through the defense network, causing some insignificant damage to the enemy's home planet or to the enemy's starship. But even so, the human fleet still did not stop its steel torrent attack. One by one, the TOT material reserve ships quickly replenished ammunition for the 3rd and 4th fleets to ensure that the electromagnetic cannon attack of the entire fleet would not be interrupted. This is not a waste. All this is to suppress the Proxima fleet in the distance. Faced with such a violent steel torrent attack, The Proxima fleet had no time to take care of the rest of the battlefield. For example, the flagship in the center of the battlefield. Another example is the first and second fleets that took the opportunity to advance in the center of the battlefield. Under Baeksuan's command, the Golden Crow A-21 battleship slowly turned its head and began the evacuation mission. In the deep sea cabin, Baeksuan lowered his eyes slightly, his face full of disappointment. Unfortunately, if the ion cannon just now had been more accurate, he could have avenged Wu Ran. Alas, Baeksuan sighed silently in his heart. Team Bay, look behind. Team Bay, something is going to happen to the flagship on the opposite side. Team Bay! Exclamation mark. The constantly flashing holographic projection screen attracted Baeksuan's attention. He raised his head and glanced at the projection in front of the deep sea cabin. After a brief moment of daze, he quickly adjusted the observation angle in the holographic projection point behind the Golden Crow battleship next to the flagship that was shaking towards Proxima B. A faint blue light suddenly appeared. The nuclear torpedo that entered silent sailing completely revealed its hideous face. After arriving near the target, it entered the final acceleration stage. That is. Baeksuan's lips trembled slightly, and he sent a message. Nuclear torpedo? No mistake. This maneuverability, this driving trajectory, is definitely the nuclear torpedo developed by Mr. Kyan. Hang Fan's affirmative reply appeared in front of him. Proxima B's flagship is probably going to be in trouble. In the holographic projection, Proxima B's flagship obviously discovered the rapidly approaching missile. At this time, its front was being hit by an unparalleled torrent of steel. Once it uses electromagnetic guns and laser weapons to intercept missiles, it will be torn into pieces by a terrifying number of electromagnetic gun projectiles in a few seconds. The flagship's route of action began to change. It tried to avoid the missile attack by moving. It was anxious. It was running. It couldn't fly. In front of the terrifying maneuverability of the nuclear torpedo, everything was false. In less than a second, the nuclear torpedo arrived 50 kilometers away from the Proxima flagship. The high-yield nuclear bomb was detonated instantly. Under the constraints of the surrounding devices, all the energy of the nuclear bomb explosion rushed towards the nozzle. The nozzle was covered with a thick layer of intermediary material. Under the high temperature impact of the nuclear bomb, the intermediary material turned into scorching plasma in a few microseconds and rushed straight towards the Proxima flagship. A straight white beam appeared in the center of the battlefield and directly penetrated the enemy flagship. At this moment, the battlefield seemed to be still, and everyone's eyes were attracted by the incandescent beam. The beam extinguished in an instant, leaving only the Proxima flagship quietly staying in place. After just a few seconds, a brilliant firework appeared in everyone's eyes. The power of the simplified plasma weapon is so terrifying. Baeksuan subconsciously held his breath. The explosion gradually dissipated, and the Proxima flagship, which had turned into a piece of debris, appeared in front of him. Golden Crow A-21, don't stay, evacuate immediately, and launch a general attack, after replenishing your status. The urging message sent by Zaoziji flashed in front of his eyes. Even though he was in the pale yellow deep sea liquid, he still felt a blur in front of his eyes. Revenge. Wu Ran, did you see it? We helped you get revenge. Golden Crow A-21 received. He choked and sent out his response. The next moment, several Chinese characters appeared in the holographic projection. Jinwu A-21, advance 4. The whole thruster shines brightly, pushing the Golden Crow A-21 towards the direction of the human fleet. It was different from the festive atmosphere in the human fleet. The Proxima Centauri fleet's communication channel fell into dead silence. The flagship is gone. The flagship is gone, as the most powerful starship in civilization. The destruction of the flagship is undoubtedly a severe mental blow to all Proxima Centauri people. For a time, people were panicked. The originally airtight defense also had some holes. Boom, boom, boom. The torrent of steel from the human fleet will not be merciful. In just a short moment, hundreds of lucky starships turned into brilliant fireworks. Defend. Damn it, defend quickly. In the communication channel, The roars of Levy and Augustus came and went. Point in the chaos. No one noticed the alarm on the monitor nearby. 50,000 kilometers. Aoziji looked at the shrinking numbers in front of him and swallowed slightly. Closer, taking advantage of the chaotic scene of the opponent's flagship explosion. The first and second fleets, a total of 50 Golden Crow battleships, moved towards Proxima B. 49,000 kilometers. The numbers jump again. Point the chaos in the Proxima fleet is slowly dying down. Point Aoziji was keenly aware of this from the decreasing explosion frequency of the enemy starships. He no longer hesitated and gave his order directly. Start attacking. Iron cannon salvo. Choose the biggest starship for me to fight. Chapter 278 Charge. Hand-to-hand combat. The order was issued. The 50 Golden Crow battleships no longer hid themselves. They directly entered the forward 4 state and rushed towards Proxima B. At the same time, the iron cannons that had been fully charged launched the first round of salvos. With almost no delay, a large ball of exploding fire appeared in the center of the Proxima fleet as the secondary flagships of the Proxima civilization, the two starships with a diameter of more than 800 meters, received special attention. A full 30 rounds of iron cannons were fired at them. That is why the two secondary flagships immediately followed the footsteps of the Proxima flagship, turning into a brilliant firework. The remaining 20 explosions occurred on those slightly smaller starships. Although they were not as big as the secondary flagships, it can be seen that they were also the main force of the Proxima fleet. With just one iron cannon salvo, the combat effectiveness of the Proxima fleet dropped a level. These 50 Golden Crow battleships also exposed their positions. Just a few seconds later, hundreds of small starships broke away from the original array and flew straight towards the Golden Crow battleships that were attacking without honor. Earth's Aoziji's face darkened slightly when he saw the changes in the battlefield situation in the holographic projection. He didn't expect that. In order to deal with these 50 Golden Crow battleships, Proxima actually dispatched more than 500 small starships. Are they crazy? The battlefield situation was unpredictable, and he thought for a while before issuing his own orders. Escape. There is definitely no time to escape. The maneuverability of the starships on the opposite side is too strong, and once they escape, they can only be used as live targets. Everyone, attack freely. Prepare for hand-to-hand combat. Charge. The moment the voice fell, a burst of rapid charge horns rang in everyone's ears. The military horn engraved into the bone marrow aroused everyone's emotions in an instant. Charge! Exclamation mark. Charge. Proxima B. Levy looked out the porthole with bloodshot eyes. That was the flames of the crash of the secondary flagship. The destruction of the cutting-edge combat power means that Proxima is at a great disadvantage in this battle. Looking at the giant flagship with a length of 3,000 meters in the solar system fleet, Levy felt cold hands and feet. It's over. Proxima civilization is over. In despair, endless anger rose in his three pairs of eyes. Go to the invaders, he roared, and pulled the joystick in front of him with his sturdy forelimbs, controlling his starship to rush towards the culprit not far away. At the same time, he turned on the communication equipment on the side. Fellow compatriots, 4. Proxima civilization, charge. The brave wins when they meet on a narrow road. The moment the charge was blown, there was no way back! 50 Golden Crow battleships also rushed towards the Proxima small fleet. The third and fourth fleets, which were in the rear and providing fire support, also entered the forward 4 state. While they were pouring endless electromagnetic cannons at the enemy, they were pushing forward the line of the human fleet. Under the volley of artillery fire, bursts of fire appeared in the Proxima fleet. The original 500 starships lost hundreds of ships before they approached the Golden Crow fleet, but such exaggerated losses did not affect the Proxima people's willingness to charge. 100 ships crashed, then another 100 ships, one by one. Small starships broke away from the original array and quickly caught up with the charging team, rushing towards the 50 Golden Crow battleships at the forefront of the battlefield. The distance between the two was rapidly shortened. The hand-to-hand combat began. Unlike the hand-to-hand combat on the surface, the interstellar hand-to-hand combat is more cruel and more dangerous. The enemy is not just on one plane point above, below the side, above the side. The danger comes from every unexpected direction. At the moment the hand-to-hand combat began, the CPU usage rate of the quantum supercomputing center inside the Earth instantly soared to 99.9%. However, even if it is zero, it is impossible to achieve 100% defense in such a chaotic battle. A Jinwu battleship smashed a disc-shaped starship with a diameter of more than 50 meters with a series of electromagnetic cannons. At the same time, the belly of the starship was hit by countless electromagnetic cannons and high-energy laser beams from the enemy. The Jinwu battleship, which had no time to dodge and defend, could only choose to take this set of damage. A huge gap appeared at the bottom of the starship. Warning. The reactor is damaged. Warning. Insufficient power. Warning. A series of bright red warnings appeared in front of the captain of this Jinwu battleship. TMD. Fight. Under the captain's order, the whole thruster of the Jinwu battleship, which was billowing with thick smoke, emitted the last light point. It rushed straight into the densely populated area of enemy ships. It exploded with a bang. The flames of the explosion illuminated every starship in the hand-to-hand combat, but no one cared. It was not the first Golden Crow battleship to choose to self-destruct. Nor was it the first Proxima starship to choose to self-destruct. The ants can kill the elephant. Under the fearless charge of the Proxima fleet, the number of Golden Crow fleets at the forefront of the battlefield continued to decrease. The battlefield meat grinder was completely started. Since the two fleets came into contact, in just a few minutes, only 20 of the 50 Golden Crow battleships were left. According to Zero's statistics, the sacrifice of these 30 Golden Crow battleships saved the lives of at least 500 starships of the Proxima civilization. In Earth, looking at the increasing number of casualties in front of him, Zaozij's cheeks kept twitching. They are all human elites. They are all his subordinates. Professor, I apply for the flagship to enter the field. Zaozij's eyes were red, and he sent a request to Yongchang through brainwaves. He believed that with the unparalleled firepower of the flagship, a large amount of losses would be reduced. Rejected. Two faint Chinese characters appeared in front of him. Y! Exclamation mark. Zaoziji raised his doubts. Yongchang took a deep breath of deep sea liquid, suppressed the pain in his heart, and responded slightly indifferently. We don't know if the Proxima civilization has other means. Wait a little longer. Although the flagship Earth did not enter the battlefield, the fire support from the 3rd and 4th fleets arrived at the scene. The steel torrent directly tore through the enemy ship's support route. Just one round of salvos, no less than 100 small starships were eliminated. As the distance continued to close, the elusive ion cannons also began to play a role. Every time the energy was completed, it meant the crash of an enemy ship. The fire support from the 3rd and 4th fleets reduced the pressure on the 20 Golden Crows in the front. With the increasingly urgent charge, they tore through the opposite side's defense line and rushed straight to Proxima B. Chapter 279 Cannon Fodder. The 20 Golden Crow battleships seemed to turn into a spear, piercing the enemy's hinterland fiercely. 35,000 kilometers. 30,000 kilometers. Yongchang swallowed slightly as he looked at the constantly beating numbers in the holographic projection in front of him. The bitter taste of the deep sea fluid spread across his taste buds. He didn't care, just stared straight at the holographic image in front of him. Closer. Closer. He wants to use these 20 Golden Crow battleships to thoroughly explore the reality of the Proxima Centauri civilization. As the Golden Crow battleship continued to approach, the Proxima Centauri fleet gradually became chaotic. It is different from those small spaceships that are not afraid of death and charge forward. Many spacecraft with a diameter greater than 100 meters unknowingly broke away from the original array and retreated in the direction of Proxima Centauri B. This scene was quickly discovered by Levy on the front line. His eyes widened, and he looked at the monitor next to him in disbelief. How so? Shouldn't we work together? to fight against the invaders at this time. Levy roar sounded in the Proxima Centauri fleet communication channel. August. Why? Retreat without authorization. Levy, who was on the front line, controlled the spaceship to avoid the torrent of steel coming from the 3rd and 4th human fleets, and asked angrily. There was silence in the communication device. August. Answer me, Levy. Tone became more and more impatient. At the critical moment of the counterattack, the main force suddenly withdrew, which was undoubtedly a huge blow to the soldiers rushing to the front line. There was some chaos visible to the naked eye in the Proxima Centauri fleet's Charger A. Even the small spacecraft chasing the Golden Crow battleship involuntarily slowed down. There was a slight noise coming from the communication device. Immediately afterwards, August's voice sounded different from the previous days. August's tone at this time was cold, and there was a bit of contempt in his words. Levy, your role has been completed. Levy. Breath itched. His movements in controlling the spacecraft gradually became slower, and his voice was slightly hoarse as he asked, what? August's voice continued to come from the communication device. Don't you understand yet? As cannon fodder, your mission has been completed. Levy stared blankly at the communication device beside him. On the other side, warning sounds of being locked by enemy ships continued to sound. He turned to look at the porthole in a daze, and a firelight lit up in front of his eyes. An iron cannon from the human 3rd Fleet hit the spacecraft he was driving. At the moment when the explosion flame spread, Aquita's figure appeared in front of Levy's eyes. Yes, I'm sorry. Before he could finish speaking, the sea of fire completely engulfed him. In the distance, as all the small starships rushed to the front, the slightly larger starships had already entered the atmosphere of Proxima Centauri B. The densely packed planet circling defense devices seemed to have become a natural chasm, blocking the two sides. Levy death made the already chaotic small fleet look even more disorganized. They are like headless flies scurrying around in the vast universe. Under the firepower of the 3rd and 4th fleets, countless explosions lit up the fleet. Some of the small Proxima Centauri starships turned around and rushed straight towards Proxima Centauri B. They put their hope of survival on their home planet. But apparently, they believed the wrong person. The circumplanetary defense device sprayed countless electromagnetic pellets and high-energy laser beams at them. In just an instant, they turned into a piece of cosmic dust. These Proxima Centauri people never imagined that they would die at the hands of their own people. This scene was clearly presented in the holographic projection in front of everyone. This Zaozuji was fooled by Proxima Centauri civilization's tricks. What is the other side doing? Teammates offer sacrifices to heaven, and their magic power is boundless. Seeing the complaint message sent by Zaozuji, Yongchang couldn't hold it back for a while, and laughed out loud. It shouldn't be that outrageous. Perhaps there is internal strife. In any case, it is beneficial to us. Then, he quickly issued an order to the front line to continue charging. At the same time, Proxima B, inside the Central Academy of Sciences. August looked at the picture on the monitor and nodded with satisfaction. But I didn't expect these cannon fodder to be able to kill so many enemy ships. What a surprise. It's a pity. It would be better if nothing happened to the flagship. Speaking of this, August's 6 eyes revealed a bit of regret. Your Majesty Augustus, are we just going to watch those small spaceships being destroyed by those invaders? Lyle's eyes showed a bit of pain. Those spaceships are all newly built. Even at this point, in the eyes of these so-called advanced Proxima Centauri people, spaceships are still much more valuable than human lives. August glanced lightly at Lyle, who was speaking. The moment Levy died, he felt much more comfortable all over. Therefore, when faced with the inquiries of his subordinates, he did not scold him as usual, but patiently explained them. If I give you these spaceships, can you defeat these invaders? Hearing Augustus' question, the Lyle who had asked the question just now froze. He shook his head awkwardly. What a joke. Even their flagship couldn't withstand the iron cannons of the opposite side. So what could these small starships do? That's good. Augustus turned his head to look at the monitor beside him, and a faint smile gradually appeared on the top of his thinking organ. Don't worry, everything is going according to my plan. The restless bugs have been solved, and next, it's time to implement the real plan. Turn on the land-based laser cannon. 20,000 kilometers. A sudden change. The planetary defense facilities above the equator of Proxima b began to move. Soon, huge holes appeared on the equator. Before everyone could react, a huge beam of light shot out from the hole. The extremely dazzling beam of light fell on a leading Golden Crow battleship. Swish. In just 1 second, the outer armor that the Golden Crow battleship was proud of was instantly melted through. The beam entered from the front of Golden Crow and shot out from the back, penetrating wound. The beam gradually dissipated. Boom. After a slight delay, the flames of the explosion illuminated the originally dim universe. Instant kill. The battlefield once again fell into stagnation. Chapter 280. Land-based laser cannon. This high-energy laser is just the beginning of Proxima Centauri's counterattack. No time was given for humans to react. Near the equator of Proxima Centauri b, 4 beams of light lit up. The laser beam flashes one after another. Every flash means that a Golden Crow battleship has crashed. In just a few seconds, 20 Golden Crow battleships turned into 20 brilliant flames in the deep universe. Earth in. Liu Yongchang's expression was extremely bad. Damn it, he guessed that the Proxima Centauri civilization had a hidden card. Thinking of the sacrificed crew members, he closed his eyes in pain and took a deep breath. As a fleet commander, this is a psychological test that he must endure. Clean the battlefield and suspend the attack on Proxima b. All Golden Crow battleships are on standby 40,000 kilometers away from Proxima b. Liu Yongchang directly issued an order to suspend the attack. As for Zhao Ziji in the other deep sea cabin, his face was even more pale at this time. While mourning for the fallen crew members, he also felt a chill coming from behind. It's hard to imagine what the consequences would be if Professor Liu accepted his proposal just now. Liu Yongchang replayed what happened on the battlefield over and over again. Is this really a laser weapon? How could it be so powerful? Even he couldn't help but marvel in his heart. 0. Can you analyze any data? Rows of complex data appeared in the holographic projection. Professor, according to estimates, in order to cause such a huge blow to the Golden Crow battleship, the power of this laser weapon must be at least 10 times that of ours. Considering that it is emitted from the planet's atmosphere, its actual power is probably even more exaggerated than we imagined. Ling responded to Liu Yongchang's inquiry meticulously. Incredible. Liu Yongchang sighed silently in his heart. Laser weapons have been studied a lot by humans for the current human fleet. The main factor affecting the power of laser weapons is actually the problem of heat dissipation. As the power of laser weapons increases, the problem of heat dissipation becomes an insurmountable problem. Especially in space. After a brief moment of surprise, Liu Yongchang also deduced the reason why this laser weapon is so powerful. After the main star Proxima Centauri was hit, internal energy was continuously stolen, and the heat emitted from its surface also decreased. The surface temperature of Proxima b has also begun to decrease. The dense atmosphere, which is tens of degrees below zero, is simply a perfect heat dissipation medium. Land-based laser weapons set up on the surface have advantages that ship-based laser weapons and orbital laser weapons cannot match. There is no need to worry about energy supply issues due to a strange combination of circumstances. The Proxima Centauri civilization actually mastered a weapon powerful enough to threaten human flagships in a short period of time. Proxima b. Central Academy of Sciences. Looking at the solar system fleet that had stopped its offensive, Augustus gradually became proud. Now, my plan is completely completed. As he spoke, he opened his breathing holes and blew out a breath of hot air to express his excitement and joy. Natus's face on the side was full of doubts, but he could not go against Chief Lyle's words, so he had to ask softly in a respectful tone, "Your Majesty Augustus, what do you mean by this?" Augustus glanced at Natus, perhaps because he was in a good mood. Augustus did not blame him, but explained patiently, with 12 land-based laser cannons and a planet-circling defense network, the solar system fleet will never dare to enter our range rashly. Next, this war will be delayed indefinitely. The longer this goes on, the greater our advantage. After all, they are just a wandering civilization. The day their supplies are exhausted is when we will harvest the fruits of victory. At that time, I will invite them to negotiate and ask them to provide us with a sufficient number of starships for our escape. I believe they will not reject this win-win outcome. A week later, what are the results of the test? In the Earth Command Center, Yongchang asked solemnly. In order to test the power of the land-based laser weapons of the Proxima Centauri civilization, Yongchang ordered that some TOT starships that had depleted their material reserves be sent out as bait. Of course, in order to confuse the enemy, they beautified TOT a little, at least. In appearance, it should be similar to the Golden Crow battleship. 0 also plays its unique role. In just a few days, it successfully transformed more than 10 TOT starships. The Proxima Centauri civilization never imagined that in the open universe more than 100,000 kilometers away from its own planet, a simple starship modification factory would appear out of thin air in just a few days. Professor Zero's voice sounded. According to the test results, the Proxima Centauri civilization has a total of 12 land-based laser cannons, all located near the equator of Proxima Centauri b. The effective range and power tests of the laser cannon also have results. A series of dense data appeared in the holographic projection directly in front of the command center. After Yongchang made some calculations in his mind, he frowned slightly. The power of this laser weapon. At present, only our flagship can resist it for a short time. Yes. Zero confirmed Yongchang's mental calculation result. According to the simulation test, the non-critical parts, Earth, can withstand 3 attacks, and the critical parts, we can only withstand 2 attacks. Yongchang shook his head slowly. Too little. In this case, we can't get close to Proxima b before we get rid of these 12 land-based laser cannons. Zij's voice sounded at the side. What about nuclear torpedoes? Although it is in the planet's atmosphere, the power of nuclear torpedoes should be enough to deal with these 12 land-based laser cannons. Yongchang thought for a moment, then shook his head and rejected Zij's proposal. Have you forgotten the planetary defense network on the opposite side? And like last time, the weapons we sent out need to break through the interception of the planetary defense network first, as, at the beginning, use electromagnetic cannons to bombard. Fangzhou proposed a solution. Yongchang didn't say anything, but just nodded at the holographic projection in front of him. It shows the remaining amount of various materials. When Fangzhou saw that there was less than 10% of the pellets wrapped in the micronuclear bombs, he couldn't help but exclaimed, "How can it be so little?" Yongchang shrugged. Unlike guerrilla warfare, the ammunition consumption on the front battlefield is extremely huge. At that time, in order to suppress the more than 5,000 starships on the opposite side, everyone wanted to grow a few more gun barrels on the starships. Hearing this, Fangzhou couldn't help but laugh bitterly. Looking back, it was indeed the case at that time. In the white-hot battlefield, everyone was excited. What about the remaining amount of ordinary pellets? Less than 60%. Yongchang sighed. Not to mention how many shells can successfully enter the atmosphere. Even if they enter the atmosphere, they may not necessarily cause a huge blow to the land-based laser cannons. So, unless there is a definite guarantee, I don't recommend using this batch of ammunition. Chapter 281 Letter of Persuasion to Surrender? The command center fell into silence again. Obviously, the current war situation has reached a stalemate. Everyone present knew that the longer this war dragged on, the more disadvantageous it would be for humanity. This can be seen from the various supplies displayed in the holographic projection in front of them. The disadvantages of the wandering civilization were also clearly visible at this moment. At least, when the civilization's technological level is low, ordinary wandering civilizations cannot support an evenly matched interstellar war. Professor, radio communication from the direction of Proxima b is detected. Zero's voice broke the silence of the command center. Yongchang's eyes moved slightly, and he immediately asked, another meaningless communication request. Thanks to the Proxima dictionary, deciphered a long time ago. They can interpret the communication information of the Proxima civilization without any hindrance. The Proxima civilization naturally knows this. Since the war entered a stalemate, they have been sending communication requests to human civilization, trying to have a face-to-face communication with human civilization. Not surprisingly, these meaningless communication requests were rejected by LV Yongchang. Not really, to Lu Yongchang's surprise, Ling denied his guess. Unlike the previous times, this time, the radio they sent contained substantial information. As soon as the voice fell, the holographic projection screen in front of the command center quietly changed, and a series of Chinese characters appeared in front of everyone. Hello, strange civilization. We are Proxima civilization. War is not what we want. I hope we can sit down and have a good talk. LV Yongchang read this letter of persuasion to surrender with a solemn expression. Yes, in his opinion, the message sent by Proxima civilization is an alternative letter of persuasion to surrender. The letter did not say it explicitly, but Lu Yongchang could still see from the lines how confident the Proxima civilization was in this protracted war. Heh. This damn Proxima civilization actually wants us to provide them with 100 starships? Zhao Ziji's eyes flashed with anger, and he said in a vicious voice, dream of the spring and autumn period. After killing so many of us, they now want us to cede land and pay compensation. What? A joke. As he said this, Zhao Ziji slapped the control console in front of him fiercely, causing the holographic screen to tremble. LV Yongchang chuckled, waved his hand in the air, and threw the letter of persuasion aside. You can't say that. Strictly speaking, we are the invaders, and their losses in this war are much greater than ours. Hearing this, Zhao Ziji's face suddenly became a little strange. It seems that's what happened. Ahem. Well, even if we are invaders, their demands are too much. Zhao Ziji scratched his head awkwardly. If nothing else, we can't surrender, just for the soldiers who died on the battlefield. LV Yongchang didn't say anything, but just nodded slightly. It is impossible to surrender. I will never surrender in this life. But how should this war be fought next? LV Yongchang stretched out his hand and gently rubbed his eyebrows. Hiss. Let me think about it. He closed his eyes slightly and thought carefully about the current situation. Land-based laser weapons, uranium 235 residue, hydrogen bomb, gas giant planet. He muttered some obscure words. Suddenly, he seemed to think of something and clapped his hands. Got it. In the quiet command center, the sound of LV Yongchang's clapping was particularly crisp and loud, attracting everyone to cast inquiring eyes at him. Yongchang? Fang Zhu asked eagerly, do you know how to destroy the 12 land-based laser weapons? LV Yongchang shook his head. It is too difficult to cross the planetary defense network and directly attack the land-based laser weapons. The expression on Fang Zhu's face gradually changed from excitement to confusion and puzzlement. The corners of LV Yongchang's mouth slightly raised, revealing a mysterious smile. He did not directly tell his plan, but turned his head and said to the side, 0. How many asteroids are there near us? Or, are there many asteroids in this star system? The star map unfolded instantly. Densely packed tiny red dots appeared in front of everyone. Each red dot means an asteroid of varying sizes. 0. Roughly estimate the total amount. LV Yongchang frowned and gave the order again. The star map began to change, and a grey 3D spherical model gradually took shape in front of everyone. The diameter of the sphere grew rapidly. In the end, it stopped at an astonishing number 3,000 kilometers. LV Yongchang nodded thoughtfully. Is it close to the volume of the moon? That's enough to use. The expression on Fang Zhu's face became more and more puzzled. He thought for a moment, and then, as if he had figured out something, he showed a look of sudden enlightenment. But soon, he frowned again and shook his head slowly. Perhaps he felt that there was something wrong with the direction of his thinking, so he asked softly, Yongchang, do you want to push these asteroids to hit Proxima B? That won't work. Their planetary defense network is enough to blast these asteroids into powder. Hearing this, LV Yongchang was stunned. Who said I want to push asteroids to hit Proxima B? Let alone the planetary defense network. Even pushing these asteroids will take a lot of time. We don't have so much free time to play such tricks. Fang Zhu was also stunned. What do you mean, LV? Yongchang chuckled and said a word. Smog. Smog? Fang Zhu subconsciously repeated LV Yongchang's words. According to our long-distance observations, the atmospheric environment of Proxima b is much better than that of the Earth. That's why they can use land-based laser weapons. LV Yongchang's smile became more and more obvious. Although we cannot solve the problem of land-based laser weapons, we can greatly reduce their power. With the help of hummingbird mining ships and nanorobots, we can turn these asteroids into extremely fine dust, and then send these dusts to Proxima b through nuclear bombs. Speaking of this, LV Yongchang shrugged. Simply put, it is an interstellar version of a smoke bomb, but our uranium-235 reserves are running low. Ko Liangke's reminder sounded from the side point. LV Yongchang turned his head and looked at the porthole on the side point. Far away from the porthole is a gas giant similar to Jupiter gaseous giant. This time, we use hydrogen bombs. .0.01 light years away. In the deep universe, 750 starships stayed quietly in place. Suddenly, the light of the Hall thrusters lit up at the tails of 250 of the starships. The light gradually became brighter. 250 TOT material reserve ships headed straight towards Proxima b. Chapter 282 Interstellar Smoke Bomb. Half a month passed in a flashpoint. Proxima b. Central Academy of Sciences. Augustus sat in his chair calmly, gently swinging his short and sturdy lower limbs. How is it? Haven't those invaders responded to our communication request yet? Lyle and Black heard this, quickly put down his work, and trotted to his side. Sir Augustus, during this period, we have sent a total of 109 communication requests, but have not received a single response. Augustus's leisurely movements paused slightly. Are they still struggling in vain? Lyle's 3 pairs of eyes showed hesitation. No. Augustus sat up straight, his expression a little more solemn. Then what are they doing? Those invaders seem to be waiting for something in place. Lyle's eyes were even more confused. Augustus didn't speak. He stood up and walked towards the observation room in the distance. A few minutes later he looked at the picture on the monitor and fell into deep self-doubt. You sure their fleet has been staying in the same place for the past half month? Lyle nodded hurriedly and said, indeed, except for the flagship and supply ship, their warships have implemented a full-scale blockade against us. But, Lyle met Augustus's solemn eyes and said carefully, but those flagships and supply ships are all gathered together. It looks like they are blocking something. Blocking something? Augustus was stunned. What can they block? Can you use an optical telescope to observe the invading starships? Lyle tapped the keyboard beside him a few times and called up an image. We have tried to observe it, but unfortunately, it was blocked very tightly. Augustus carefully observed the image in front of him. Let them go. Augustus's thinking organ showed layers of wrinkles on the top. There is only one solid planet in our star system. Are they going to rely on those tiny asteroids to fight a protracted war with us? Wait, in half a month, we will receive the surrender letter from the other side. So the Proxima Galaxy spent another half a month of peace. Earth, in Lu Yongchang's office. Yutong, how is the mining mission of the gas giant planet going? He asked Su Yutong beside him in a low voice, while drawing on the holographic image in front of him. Su Yutong's response came soon. Professor, the deuterium and tritium gas has been collected, and the factory has started to manufacture hydrogen bombs. What about the asteroid collection plan? Lu Yongchang asked again without looking up. Su Yutong lowered his head and operated in the holographic projection in front of him. It has also entered the final stage. Most of the hummingbird mining ships have returned. LV Yongchang straightened up, put his hand on his chin, carefully checked the structural diagram in front of him and nodded. Very good. Please help me pass this drawing to Fang Zhu and tell him to start making smoke bombs now. We will launch a general attack in a week. Su Yutong's face changed slightly. While operating the holographic image in front of her, she whispered back, so urgent. LV Yongchang sighed softly. We have consumed too many resources to build the factory behind. A quick battle and a quick decision will only benefit human civilization. Under Zero's control, the manufacturing task was quickly launched. One by one, robots and mechanical arms quickly manufactured the new equipment needed for the decisive battle. Interstellar smoke bombs. In order to accommodate more asteroid dust, the interstellar smoke bomb was made into a spherical shape. From the outside, the whole smoke bomb looks like a plus version of the electromagnetic cannon projectile point, but its internal structure is a world of difference. The smoke bomb has a 4-layer structure. The inner core of the projectile is a miniature nuclear bomb removed from the electromagnetic cannon projectile. Outside the miniature nuclear bomb is a layer of deuterium and tritium. The two form a simple hydrogen bomb. Unlike miniature nuclear bombs, the power of hydrogen bombs can be infinitely increased in theory. And the way to increase it is also very simple. It can be done by simply increasing the amount of deuterium and tritium. Compared with scarce raw materials such as uranium-235. The gas giant planet in the Proxima star system can provide humans with almost unlimited deuterium and tritium materials. They can greatly increase the explosive power of this smoke bomb and let the asteroid dust float farther. Outside the hydrogen bomb structure is tightly compressed asteroid dust. The particle diameter of these dust particles is less than 1 micron, which is smaller than the so-called PM 2.5. Once the smoke bomb explodes inside Proxima, these fine dusts will quickly spread in the atmosphere. Of course, some people may ask, what if these smoke bombs are detonated in advance by the planetary defense network, preventing them from entering the atmosphere? No big problem. Even in interstellar space, these dusts can still perfectly play their role, blocking the land-based laser weapons of Proxima civilization. A week passed in a flashpoint. The day of launching the general attack also arrived as scheduled. In the deep sea cabin, Yongchang watched the deep sea liquid gradually overflow his eyes and silently issued his orders. All Golden Crow battleships, evacuate immediately. After replenishing their status, launch a general attack. Proxima B. No, it's not good, Your Excellency Augustus. Something happened. A slightly shrill cry woke up August, who was sleeping on a chair. He opened his tired eyes and shouted angrily at the visitor. Shut up. What are you yelling about? He hadn't slept in his own big comfortable bed for a long time since the war. Now, he can't even rest in his chair without being disturbed. Thinking of this, Augustus became even more angry. Oh, Sir Augustus, those intruders are on the move. Lyle's scream was like a bucket of cold water poured on August's head. After a brief moment of panic, he came to his senses. Did they accept our communication request? Lyle was stunned for a moment, then shook his head violently and said, No, their battleships have all evacuated. Augustus froze on the spot. Evacuate? How could they evacuate? Damn it, they're gone. What should we do? How do we get off this damn planet without their starships? He subconsciously believed that these invaders gave up their attack plan and chose to expedition to another habitable star system. Your Excellency Augustus, I'm afraid they are not evacuating. Lyle said cautiously. The invaders' flagships and supply ships have dispersed. They built a giant factory in this month. Augustus was stunned again. Giant factory? A month? Do you think I'm a fool? As he said that, Augustus grabbed Lyle in front of him and glared at him fiercely. Your Excellency Augustus, you can go and see for yourself. Lyle responded with difficulty. Chapter 283 Haze. Observation room. Augustus looked at the monitor in front of him, and his 3 pairs of eyes were filled with incredible colors. The monitor showed real-time images from the Proxima optical detector. The flagship and supply ships that were originally gathered together had now dispersed their formations behind their huge flagship. A building with a length of 5,000 meters was quietly parked in the silent space point from the supply ships docked next to the building. It can be seen that Lyle was right. That damn solar system civilization actually built a large factory in space, and all this was completed in just 1 month. Augustus took a few steps back and muttered to himself, This is impossible. How did they do it? Watching The supply ships leave the space factory and head straight for the battleships on the other side. A sense of crisis arose in his heart. Quick. Prepare for defense. Before he finished speaking, another shrill alarm sounded. Sir Augustus, those invaders' warships are heading towards us. The observer's sharp shout resounded throughout the observation room. 30,000 kilometers. The tails of 120 Golden Crow battleships glowed with blue light. In the dark universe, it was as if 120 small suns rose. The extremely huge thrust pushed the Golden Crow battleships towards Proxima b. At the same time, the steel torrent composed of countless electromagnetic cannon projectiles appeared again. Unlike the previous period, there were no macronuclear bombs inside the electromagnetic cannon projectiles this time. Even so, these projectiles, relying on their extremely high speed, also have extremely powerful destructive power. Without the interference of those small Proxima starships, the flames of explosions continue to appear in the planetary defense network. The planetary defense network of the Proxima civilization is disintegrating at a speed visible to the naked eye. Proxima b. Underground city of the Central Academy of Sciences. Augustus's breathing hole opened slightly, and his rapid breathing showed his inner panic. Damn it. He paced back and forth in the observation room, turning his head from time to time to look at the battle situation on the monitor beside him. Every time he turned his head, his mood would get worse. Sir Augustus, the observer's voice was full of fear. The planetary defense network is gone. Augustus's footsteps suddenly stopped, and he turned his head to look at the screen again. The mesh structure that originally wrapped around Proxima b no longer exists, and instead there is a huge gap. The gap is shrinking at an extremely slow speed. That is the orbital guns in other areas urgently changing their orbits. However, in the face of the continuous steel torrent attack of the human fleet, such a move is undoubtedly a last resort. A hint of madness flashed in Augustus' eyes. Wait a little longer. Wait until they are within 20,000 kilometers, and then use our land-based laser weapons. This time, I will destroy all their warships within 20,000 kilometers. 25,000 kilometers. The Golden Crow battleship only advanced 5,000 kilometers, and the originally airtight ring planet defense network was torn open with a huge hole. Attention everyone, prepare to launch smoke bombs. The order from Yongchang appeared in front of all the captains. The Golden Crow's speed gradually slowed down. At least, before the smoke bombs took effect, they would never cross the 20,000 kilometer threshold of life and death. After stopping, these Golden Crow battleships simultaneously cracked on the top. 1 by 1. The temporarily installed gun barrel slowly stretched out from them. It is different from the gun barrel of the electromagnetic gun. It is not even a tube but two rails with a length of more than 10 meters. Under the electromagnetic effect, the huge interstellar smoke bomb will accelerate along the rail to a speed of 1000 kilometers per second. The speed is not fast, but it is more than enough for the current battlefield. As the launch order was issued, the plus version of the projectile slowly accelerated along the rail and rushed straight to the front of the fleet. The first round of salvo 120 huge smoke bombs swayed towards Proxima b. A few seconds later, these smoke bombs entered the range of Proxima's land-based laser weapons. 20,000 kilometers. The Proxima civilization, which was determined to maintain stability, did not let these smoke bombs continue to move forward. When they found that the ring planet defense network was no longer effective, they directly used land-based laser weapons. The beam flashed several times, and the flames of the explosion appeared in the interstellar space. Every smoke bomb explosion will spread countless carefully prepared asteroid dust around. In just a moment, a muddy yellow smoke barrier appeared between the Golden Crow battleship and Proxima b. In order to facilitate identification, LV Yongchang specially added some dye to the asteroid dust. That's why the dust is muddy yellow. All Jinwu battleships, keep moving forward. The moment the smoke barrier appeared, LV Yongchang once again issued the order to move forward. The second round of salvos was fired at the same time. Perhaps the scene that just happened was a little unexpected to the Proxima Centauri. This time, these projectiles were not blocked point, but this did not affect the final outcome point when this batch of smoke bombs arrived at the designated location. The macronuclear bombs inside were detonated by remote control. In just a moment, the high temperature and high pressure generated by the nuclear bomb explosion caused the outer layer of deuterium and tritium to fusion. The second muddy yellow dust barrier appeared! 120. Golden Crow. Battleships calmly entered within 20,000 kilometers. The light of the land-based laser cannon flashed again, passing through the dust and shining directly on the leading Golden Crow battleship. The original scene of explosion did not appear. Hiss. A slight burning appeared at the laser beam point, but such power is like tickling. For the heavy armor of the Golden Crow battleship, the third round of salvos, the fourth round of salvos, each round of salvos will form a muddy yellow smoke barrier in front of the fleet point. The number of barriers is increasing, and the power of the high energy laser beam is getting weaker and weaker. The Golden Crow battleships slowly advance the front line along these barriers, occasionally firing a few electromagnetic cannons to deal with the ring planet defense facilities that have changed their orbits the moment they found that the land-based laser cannons were ineffective. The Proxima civilization, which had been sitting on the Diote, began to panic. For a time, high-energy laser beams flashed wildly in interstellar space point, but facing the unprecedented haze attack, the offensive of these high-energy laser beams seemed extremely weak. More and more smoke bombs were fired, and a 20,000 kilometer long, stratified yellow smoke belt gradually appeared outside Proxima B point. When the Golden Crow battleship approached Proxima B, smoke bombs fell into the atmosphere of Proxima B like dumplings. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284 Successfully cracked the genome. The dense atmosphere increases the explosion power of hydrogen bombs by hundreds or thousands of times. At the moment of the smoke bomb explosion, under the influence of the shockwave, the dust spread rapidly to the entire Proxima B. Because the temperature of Proxima B dropped, all the liquid water on the surface condensed into ice. Therefore, from space, Proxima B at that time was like a snow-white and flawless ice ball, quietly shining in the deep universe. With the explosion of a large number of interstellar smoke bombs, the climate of Proxima B was greatly changed. First, it was a change in color. The originally pure and flawless snow-white ice ball gradually became stained with a layer of dim yellow. Secondly, it was a change in temperature. The huge amount of heat radiation released by the explosion of countless high-yield hydrogen bombs caused the temperature of Proxima B to gradually rise. The original ice layer gradually melted, and Proxima B briefly returned to its previous appearance. However, under the shining of the main star, the originally clear sky turned into a dim yellow. The dim sky of Proxima B. LV Yongchang, who was in the earth, looked at the picture in the holographic projection with some emotion in his eyes. The originally weak human civilization, at this moment, also has some planetary transformation capabilities. Proxima B. Looking at the approaching Jinwu fleet on the monitor, Augustus sat in his chair with a gloomy look. It's over. He knew that when these damn dust began to spread in the atmosphere of Proxima B, the Proxima civilization entered the countdown to extinction. Sir Augustus, we still have more than 600 spaceships. We still have the strength to fight, Sir Augustus. Fight those damn invaders. Calls came from the side point. Seeing the starships of human civilization gradually approaching the synchronous orbit of Proxima B, those lils finally realized the seriousness of the problem. Under endless panic, a courage to survive at the risk of death burst out from their hearts. Augustus seemed to be deaf, just sitting quietly in his seat, silently looking at the display in front of him. Sir Augustus, Nazis. Voice rang out. He tried to wake up the old man who had ruled the Proxima civilization for hundreds of years. Augustus shook his head slowly. It's useless. He opened his breathing mouth and exhaled a weak and long breath. Everything is over. Our spaceships can't shake the invader starships at all. Then we, Nats said anxiously, surrender. Augustus stood up from his chair and glanced at the people around him lightly. Help me send a communication request to them. By doing this, we may still have a chance of survival. Professor, there is another radio communication request from Proxima B. When 120 Golden Crow battleships cleared the defensive weapons in the synchronous orbit, a message appeared in front of Lu Yongchang '. What do they want to do again? LV Yongchang asked Zero through the brainwave reader. Surrender. LV Yongchang looked at the two Chinese characters in front of him and was stunned. He never thought that the other side would choose to surrender. He couldn't help but think about it from another perspective point. If it was human civilization, at least, human civilization under his leadership would never surrender to the invaders at this moment. I remember, don't they still have some starships? LV Yongchang asked subconsciously. Yes, according to observation data, Proxima civilization still has at least 600 spaceships with a diameter of more than 100 meters. Zero responded quickly. Looking at this message, Lu Yongchang nodded thoughtfully. No need to respond to their communication request. Let those Jinwu battleships remain in synchronous orbit and conduct a full-scale blockade of Proxima B. Received, Professor. Earth Command Center. Lu Yongchang glanced at everyone and said in a deep voice, everyone, we have now entered the final stage of the interstellar war. Just now, the Proxima civilization surrendered to us. As soon as the voice fell, a slight discussion sounded inside the command center. Everyone showed surprise on their faces. Aren't there still a batch of spaceships on the other side? Zhao Zij's voice was full of doubts. I remember that a lot of starships fled back to Proxima B some time ago. LV Yongchang nodded. Yes, there are probably more than 600 ships, all of which are spaceships with a diameter of more than 100 meters. Then, the other side. This is also what I'm worried about. Lu Yongchang's face was a little uneasy. Our starships are not suitable for fighting in the atmosphere. To be precise, these 1,500 meter long behemoths cannot enter the atmosphere of Proxima B at all. So far, only Zhuan II has the ability to fight in the atmosphere, but it is a transport ship after all, and its combat effectiveness is terrible. LV Yongchang paused for a moment and spoke again. This is only one reason. On the other hand, the lessons learned in the past few times have taught me a lot of experience. We can't accurately judge the other party's intentions now, when we don't know whether the other side wants to surrender or cheat. We must adopt the most conservative strategy. Everyone nodded in agreement. Seeing that no one objected, LV Yongchang also showed a satisfied smile. Zero, bring up the plan. As soon as the voice fell, the huge holographic projection screen in front of the command center changed instantly. Dense data and patterns were presented in front of everyone. This is Mao Zengzi frowned and asked in a low voice, genome information. LV Yongchang glanced at Mao Zengzi in the distance, smiled and nodded. This is the genome information sent by a Proxima person at that time. I have been responsible for deciphering this part of the content, because the genes are quite different from those of Earth creatures. This part of the work is progressing slowly, so I haven't announced it to everyone. Mao Zengzi heard LV Yongchang's voiceover, and his expression was slightly excited. Then now, not bad. LV Yongchang nodded. Fortunately, we have fulfilled our mission, and we have successfully mastered the genetic information of Proxima people. There was an uproar. Everyone present was a highly intelligent person, so they naturally knew what this meant. LV Yongchang stretched out his hand and swept it across the air, and the holographic projection screen changed again. Based on this genetic information, I designed a unique weapon. As long as we throw it into the atmosphere of Proxima B and wait for a while, we can achieve the final victory without bloodshed. P.S. This part is a bit ahem. I can only avoid it as much as possible, so the genome information has not been mentioned in the previous part. Chapter 285. The next day Zhuan II flew out from the Earth and flew straight towards Proxima Centauri B, which appeared dim yellow in the distance. Like the small spacecraft of Proxima Centauri, the smaller Zhuan II also appears to be extremely flexible. Especially when there is no driver inside. Its acceleration performance reaches its peak Soon, it reached the synchronous orbit of Proxima Centauri B point under Zero's control. Xuanv-2's flight trajectory was extremely graceful. It didn't stop at all and plunged into the dim yellow atmosphere of Proxima Centauri B point. After entering the atmosphere, Xuanv-2's flight speed slowed down slightly, but it still dived towards the ground like a sharp sword. The fierce friction between the ship's hull and the atmosphere instantly turned Xuanv-2 into a fireball that hit the ground. Just before it was about to make contact with the ground, Xuanv-2's speed instantly slowed down. Like a miracle, it once again drew a beautiful curve and changed its flight trajectory. At this moment, it is located on a vast ocean. Under Zero's control. Xuanv number 2 chose a direction and rushed forward quickly. A certain continent in Proxima Centauri B point. Xuanv-2 slowed down its flight speed again and landed slowly on solid land. After a short wait, its belly door suddenly opened and small drones flew out one after another. After the drones circled in the air, they scattered and flew straight towards their respective targets. Earth Command Center atmospheric composition, surface temperature, geological features, various data are presented in a huge holographic projection in front of everyone. The camera footage then came. The ground is filled with large and small craters in the distance. There are countless building debris and ruins. You can imagine how much impact those electromagnetic cannon projectiles and interstellar smoke bombs had on the surface of Proxima Centauri. Everyone looked at the dilapidated scene in front of them and couldn't help but feel a little emotional in their eyes. Yongchang did not pay too much attention to the scenery on the surface. He looked at the atmospheric data of Proxima B and said with a frown, "The oxygen content is a bit low and there are still a lot of toxic gases. It seems that we will still have to live in the quarantine cabin by then. There's nothing we can do about it." Fang Zhu's voice came from the side. Although there are countless planets in the universe, finding a planet with an environment similar to the Earth's is like finding a needle in a haystack. Yongchang naturally knew this truth, but even so, there was still a look of regret on his face. Fang Zhu shrugged and continued, "What's more, not to mention the composition of the atmosphere, the radiation caused by the nuclear bombs we launched is enough to give people a headache." Yongchang laughed dumbly. "Zero, have you found any traces of Proxima Centauri people living there?" Zero's avatar appeared in front of everyone. "Currently, no signs of Proxima Centauri survival have been found on the surface." Hearing this, Yongchang was slightly startled and subconsciously asked, "What about the underground?" "Underground exploration is currently underway and no abnormal structures have been discovered yet." As soon as he finished speaking, Zero suddenly changed his words and said, "Correction, an abnormal structure in the underground has been discovered. A 3D model is presented in a holographic projection point under the undulating ground. A huge hole suddenly appeared. The entire cavity is disc-shaped, very similar to the structure of the Proxima Centauri starship. This is it." Seeing this extremely obvious trace of man-made creation, Yongchang said categorically, "Zero, send some drones over to investigate carefully. I want to know the location of its fence and other information." More than an hour later, Yongchang looked at the information in front of him and took a deep breath. Trouble. These Proxima people built the dungeon like a turtle shell. They didn't even leave any vents, like Yongchang. Everyone else's expressions were also ugly at this moment. The lack of vents means that the genetic weapons that humans are planning to release cannot enter the so-called underground city through the atmosphere. "Professor, we found the elevator." Zero's voice sounded again. "It's just that it's locked." The camera footage showed a completely black cabin standing next to a huge crater. The door to the hut was closed. From the outside, there doesn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary about this cabin. But the craters around it and the construction debris scattered all over the place show how special this cabin is. It perfectly withstood continuous nuclear bomb attacks. We can send robots to cut it open. Zhao Ziji's voice came from the side, and then put genetic weapons into it. Yongchang slowly shook his head. "No, that's not a good idea. This is just their elevator. The other party will definitely be able to cut off this passage. Once we alert the enemy, we lose the opportunity to use this weapon." Yongchang hesitated for a moment, then spoke again. If they continue to huddle underground, it will be difficult for us to quickly deal with these Proxima Centauri people. It's an extremely stupid thing to have a street fight on the opposite side of the property. Zao. Ziggy pursed his lips hard and scratched his head in distress. Then, what should we do now? This situation is not introduced in the interstellar war simulation class. Not only him, but every captain and starship pilot had a distressed look on their faces. They knew how to use various weapons and understood various military tactics, but they had no idea about this unknown situation. LV Yongchang, on the other hand, had a smile on his face. He clapped his hands with a relaxed look on his face and said in a relaxed tone, "Let them continue to shrink in their tortoise shells. We let the genetic weapons go in by themselves." Looking at the puzzled eyes cast by everyone, the smile on LV Yongchang's face became more and more obvious. "Everyone, the next step is my job." Just as LV Yongchang was about to turn around and leave the command center, Zero's voice sounded again. "Professor, we found a second abnormal underground structure. The similarity of the two underground structures reached 90%. LV Yongchang paused suddenly. "Okay, I know. It seems that these Proxima people have built two tortoise shells." A week later, two Zhuan flew out of the Earth and headed towards Proxima B along the same route. A few hours later, the two Zhuan stopped in front of two similar black cabins. The hatch slowly opened. Countless silver white substances flew out of the cabin, circled twice, and flew towards the black cabin. They were modified nanorobots in order to increase endurance and carry genetic weapons. The size of these nanorobots is several times larger than the prototype. Even so, they can still easily enter the cabin through various gaps and then use the elevator to enter the underground city that looks like a turtle shell. PS. Ahem. I only have time to write one chapter today, so I'll take a day off. Chapter 286. Frightened Augustus. Proxima B. Academy of Sciences Underground City. Observation Room. Since the 12 land-based laser weapons were destroyed, Augustus has sent a surrender request to the enemy. But something happened that frightened him. The invaders did not respond to their surrender request at all. And his decision also made the Proxima civilization lose its last chance to resist. The solar fleet has blocked the synchronous orbit of Proxima, and now they can only guard the more than 600 starships and continue to shrink in this narrow underground space. It is precisely because of this that he has clearly noticed that many Lyle have developed dissatisfaction with him in recent times due to the deep-rooted hierarchy. Those Lyle did not say anything. But Augustus knew that such a scene would never last. Although the reserve materials in the underground city are enough for all of them to live for hundreds of years, such a depressing environment is bound to trigger the darkness in some people's hearts while being anxious. Augustus is constantly thinking about how to break the deadlock. On this day, as usual, he came to the observation room early and tried to observe the movements of the invaders with the help of the few remaining observation equipment on the surface. Augustus looked at the display in front of him with a serious expression. What do these invaders want to do? Looking at the dense red dots on the screen, his 6 small eyes showed some doubts. An observer's voice came. According to the data sent back by the observation equipment, these seem to be some very small drones. The invaders should want to use these drones to conduct a preliminary exploration of our planet. Augustus took a deep breath. Drones have begun to be used for exploration. I don't know when they will discover the existence of the underground city. His sense of uneasiness became stronger and stronger. After thinking for a moment, he gave his own order. Nards, blow up the elevator and close all the entrances and exits of the underground city. What? Nards, who was standing aside, heard this horrifying order and subconsciously asked, "Sir Augustus, are you sure?" Augustus interrupted Nart's words directly. "I'm sure. Our underground city is a complete self-circulating system, and the materials in it are enough for us to survive for hundreds of years. Don't forget, the main star is about to go out, and these invaders won't stay for too long. When they leave, we can use these more than 600 spacecraft to go to the new star system. But once we do this, even if those invaders leave, it will be difficult for us to return to the ground from the underground city." Narts retorted anxiously. "Narts, Seeing Nards trying to resist his order, Augustus' heart sank, and he raised his voice a little. "Do you want to resist my order?" Looking at the angry old man in front of him, Nards' breath suddenly choked. He opened his breathing hole, exhaled a breath of hot air, and said in a not very respectful tone, "As you wish." After learning that the elevator was blown up, Augustus calmed down a lot. Perhaps because there was no way out, the originally impetuous people calmed down a lot. At least Augustus lived a comfortable life these days. It seemed that he had returned to the leisurely days of the original Academy of Sciences, but such days did not last long. More than a week later, a shrill alarm broke the peace that the underground city had finally had. "Oh, Mr. Augustus." The observer's sharp shout came from a distance. Augustus opened his eyes impatiently and looked in the direction of the observation room. "Those invaders are coming towards the underground city." Augustus, who was originally going to scold the observer, stood up directly from the recliner the moment he heard this. What's going on? Perhaps because he had just woken up, or because he was too panicked. Augustus's voice seemed particularly sharp and piercing. He asked loudly, while walking quickly towards the observation room. Looking at the red dot on the monitor that was flying straight towards the underground city, Augustus's face suddenly became ugly. Damn it. Those invaders found their underground city. What are the specific parameters of this spaceship? Augustus asked in a low voice. The observer quickly responded, "The length is about 100 meters, and the performance in all aspects is similar to our small spaceship, only 1. Augustus' eyes showed some doubts. His small spaceship can't carry much stuff. To be precise, there are 2. The observer said after a moment of hesitation. The other spaceship flew to another underground city. Augustus's face became a little ugly again. It seems that both underground cities have been discovered. These invaders are so efficient. A small spaceship of about 100 meters. They should just come to investigate. Augustus suppressed his uneasiness and whispered, "We have blown up the elevator. Without an entrance or exit, they should not bother to kill them all." The observer on the side did not speak, but looked at the display in front of him with a serious expression. "Earth Command Center, nanorobots have been successfully released." The voice of a scientific researcher sounded, "Heading to the predetermined target, successfully passed through the gate," and the video data began to be transmitted. The holographic projection screen trembled. After waiting for a few seconds, the screen gradually stabilized, and the scene inside the cabin was presented to everyone. LV Yongchang reached out and touched his chin, looking at the screen and the holographic projection thoughtfully. Dark. There were only a few faint lights inside the cabin. The orange-yellow light made the whole cabin look particularly dim. There was a huge hole where the elevator was located. Did they destroy the elevator? Fang Zhu asked with a puzzled look on his face. "Are they going to shrink underground for the rest of their lives?" LV Yongchang nodded, with a little realization in his eyes. "I was thinking wrong. These Proxima people really want to surrender. I didn't expect that such a high-level civilization would not even have the blood to launch a final counterattack." As he spoke, he shook his head. "Keep going. Go down this hole." The researcher on the side nodded, reached out and pressed a few times on the control console in front of him. The screen and the holographic projection began to move. There were all kinds of broken devices all along the way. Some equipment was still working, which showed that the elevator had not been destroyed for long. Soon, the nanorobots arrived at the bottom of the pit. Countless rocks and metal structures that made up the elevator appeared in front of everyone. "It seems that our neighbors are determined not to let us in." LV Yongchang looked at the door covered by these debris and shook his head with a smile. "Disperse the nanorobots and find a passage to enter." Chapter 287. Death of Augustus. The researcher responsible for controlling the nanorobot responded and immersed himself in the operation on the console. A large group of silver-white nanorobots dispersed instantly after stagnating for a moment, and then got into various small gaps next to Zero's job. With the help of powerful computing power, these nanorobots quickly found a way to enter the gate. The silver-white substance emerged from the gap like running water and formed a ball in the air again. These nanorobots stayed at the gate for a brief moment and then swarmed towards the closed door. "Your Excellency Augustus, the number of unexplained deaths has reached 100. A man in black, lol, reported to August HUI in front of him with a solemn expression. August sighed deeply. Increased again. In just 3 days, the number of unexplained deaths has exceeded the 100 mark from single digits. What were the test results? Did you find anything? Augustus already had some guesses in his mind, but he didn't want to say the words out loud. Black clothed Lyle slowly shook his head. No causative factors have been found so far. Hearing this, Augustus breathed a sigh of relief and crossed out the terrible guess in his mind. It seems that it is not caused by an unknown infectious disease. Okay, go ahead and do your work. Augustus waved his hand with a tired look on his face. Remember, this matter must be kept confidential. Deep underground, people's hearts are scattered. Once any abnormal situation occurs, it will be a huge blow to everyone. He couldn't even imagine what would happen then. Lyle opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he just sighed softly and responded in a low voice, "Okay, Mr. Augustus." After saying that, he turned around and prepared to leave. After taking a few steps, he suddenly turned his head and said hesitantly, "Your Excellency Augustus, the investigation found that all death cases will feel extremely tired before the onset of illness." August's face turned ugly instantly. "Shut up," he yelled. "There's no way I'm getting this damn disease." After saying that, Augustus suddenly opened his breathing holes and took a few deep breaths. Impossible. Since the breakthrough of Proxima Centauri civilization's biotechnology, he has not been sick for hundreds of years. Impossible. Impossible. Feeling the intense dizziness coming from his thinking organ, his 3 pairs of eyes revealed a strong look of fear. Bang. The sound of heavy objects falling attracted the attention of everyone present. "Your Majesty." Augustus slowly closed his heavy eyelids, and a vague shout came to his ears. "Chaos, who am I? Where am I? Vital signs are declining rapidly. Prepare to use your Excellency Augustus." "Hold on, this voice seems a bit familiar." The next moment, a strong stimulation came from his chest, and memory fragments poured into his thinking organ. Come to think of it, his name is August. Chief Lyle of the Proxima Centauri civilization. Is he sick? No. How could he be sick? How could he be sick? Microorganisms on Proxima B, etc. A flash of light suddenly flashed in his thinking organ. He got it. He understands it all. Another burst of intense stimulation. Cough, cough. He took a deep breath and suddenly opened his eyes. "Your Excellency Augustus, are you awake?" Natus's face appeared in front of him. "You are in a very bad situation now. We are going to..." Augustus struggled to open his mouth and whispered, "Check it at the genetic level. I suspect that the civilization of the solar system has tampered with it." Nats was suddenly startled. "Genetic level?" August gasped and explained in a low voice, "Remember the Atoka we executed many years ago?" Natus hesitated for a moment and nodded slowly. "I have an impression. Is it the Atoka who was sentenced to death? Do you know the reason?" Augustus' eyes showed a bit of bitterness. Nats shook his head. "The information was well blocked at that time. I only heard that it was an operational error, and he was convicted of anti-civilization crimes." August shook his thinking organ vigorously, trying to relieve the severe pain emanating from it. He sent his genome information to the solar system. After the words fell, there was an exclamation of surprise from all around. "What? Genome information?" Natus suddenly widened his 6 eyes and exclaimed loudly, "How dare he do this?" August's breath became weaker and weaker. "Let's not talk about Atoka first. Think about it. During this period, the civilization of the solar system only sent a few small starships and did not make any other actions. It was completely different from the previous high-profile attacks. When something goes wrong, there must be a monster. I should have thought of it." Natus fell silent. "Remember, check from the genetic level, and be quick." August's voice became weaker and weaker until it disappeared. A crisp alarm sound sounded. "Vital signs are gone." Lyle exclaimed, "Your Excellency August is dead." Natus said nothing. He was silent for a long time, then raised his hand and waved it gently. Let's go. We should continue to find the cause of the disease. 1 month later. Professor, the scheduled time has come. Zeros. Reminder sounded in the office. Yongchang raised his head and glanced at the holographic image in front of him. A flash of surprise flashed in his eyes. So fast. As he spoke, he stood up and walked toward the office door. 0. Get ready. It's time for us to get to work. The office door was closed, and the holographic projection and various lights were slowly extinguished under Zero's control point. Subsequently, notices were sent to various researchers. A few hours later, more than 100 unfathomable ships lined up in a neat queue and sailed in the direction of Proxima Centauri B. Loaded inside was a fully armed robot point, in order to prevent various unexpected situations that may arise. Yongchang decided to use a robot to conduct the first exploration operation. Yongchang, is there any further information from the nanorobots? As soon as he entered the command center, Fang Zhu asked Yongchang. Yongchang shrugged. Of course not. The ability of these nanorobots to successfully enter the underground city is already considered the limit. Without follow-up energy replenishment, I estimate that these nanorobots are now scattered in every corner of the dungeon. Fang Zhu hesitated for a moment and then asked, what if the genetic data sent to us by the Proxima Centauri man is false? Yongchang pursed his lips towards the holographic projection. If it's fake, we can only use physical extermination. Warm reminder, if you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error or contact us at the bottom to inform us. We will handle it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. Chapter 288. Entering the dungeon. Hearing LV Yongchang's words, Fang Zhu couldn't help but smile bitterly and shook his head. That's right. If the genetic weapons don't work, then they can only choose the most time-consuming and laborious method to implement the genocide plan. Even if these Proxima people have locked themselves underground. For the time being, they are not a threat to humans. But the old saying is right. How can you let others sleep soundly beside your bed? Not to mention, humans have just dropped their territory. If they don't implement the genocide plan at this time, are they waiting for them to seek revenge in the future? It is precisely for these reasons that no one present opposes the extinction plan proposed by LV Yongchang. Looking at the gradually clear surface images of Proxima B in the holographic projection, the atmosphere in the command center gradually became solemn. Landing countdown. 5 minutes. The Zuan second, lined up in a neat formation, passed over the ground. Compared with more than a month ago, Proxima B now looks even more dilapidated. Strong nuclear radiation not only did not inhibit the growth of plants, but on the contrary, it even promoted the growth of plants on Proxima B that have strong radiation resistance. In addition, there is no activity of Proxima Centauri, so the vegetation on the surface of Proxima B is extremely lush. Unlike the Earth, most of the plants on Proxima B are dark colored. In addition to black, there is a deep purple that is extremely close to black. This is because Proxima Centauri belongs to the M-type star in the stellar spectrum type. Proxima B, which is extremely close to the main star, has a large amount of infrared light. Therefore, these plants have a wider choice between visible light and infrared light. These dark colored plants covered the dilapidated buildings in just 1 month. The two have extremely close colors. That is why, at first glance, there is no obvious trace of civilization on the surface of Proxima B. Only one area looks particularly abrupt. The originally flat land is dotted with dense, deep or shallow craters. There are few plants in the craters, so they retain the unique yellow-brown color of the soil. In the yellow-brown background, a bit of black stands out. The height of Zuan second gradually dropped, and the picture from the camera became clearer. It was a black cabin. This was the destination of these Zuan seconds, the elevator entrance and exit of the Proxima underground city. The fully armed robot army stepped out of Zuan Vi. A bright red high-energy laser beam shone directly at the door of the black cabin. In front of the high-power laser beam, The tightly closed door was forced to give way after only a few seconds. Several robots entered the cabin with heavy steps, carrying several cables supported by carbon nanotubes. The scene inside the cabin was almost the same as a month ago. The only difference was the concentration of vegetation on the wall. The area covered by those moss-like plants was much larger than a month ago. The dim orange light shone through these plants, reflecting on the silver-white body of the robot, adding a touch of strange warmth to this scene full of disharmony. LV Yongchang, who was far away in the earth, looked at this scene, and his eyes became more solemn. The energy of the underground city has not been cut off. Prepare for a counterattack. As soon as the voice fell, several robots and the camera had raised their Gauss rifles. The principle is the same as that of the electromagnetic gun, and the only difference between the two is the power. Even though the power of the Gauss rifle is far inferior to that of the shipborne electromagnetic gun, its power is still not something that ordinary carbon-based creatures can resist. Under Zero's control. The cooperation between these robots is amazing. Or guard, or build, all robots have their own responsibilities, and there is no conflict between their routes of action and work content. The orderly behavior gave LV Yongchang and other remote viewers a sense of comfort from the heart. In just over 10 minutes, a simple elevator was built. Dozens of robots boarded the elevator, and under Zero's control, the elevator slowly descended. The landing time was not long. A few minutes later, a touch of orange light from the bottom appeared in the camera. As the distance got closer, everyone gradually saw the object emitting orange light. An open door. The door was buried by some huge rocks and metal blocks, and the orange light was coming out from the gaps between these objects. LV Yongchang remembered it very clearly. The last time the nanorobots came, this door was closed. Could it be that the genetic data sent by Proxima was really wrong? Is this a trap set by the Proxima people? Have they set an ambush? In an instant, countless suspicions flashed through LV Yongchang's mind. Stop, he said in a hurried tone. Almost at the same time, the speed of the elevator's descent was reduced to 0, and it stopped steadily in place. At the same time, dozens of robots on the simple elevator picked up Gauss rifles, walked quickly to the edge of the elevator, and pointed the muzzles at the open door. The command center was quiet, and LV Yongchang held his breath and focused on the holographic projection in front of him. He could even hear his violent heartbeat. After waiting for a long time, he opened his mouth slightly and let out a long breath. Nothing moved. Keep going down, he said concisely. Slow down, stay alert, and fire without warning if you find any abnormal situation. 0. Silently executed Lu Yongchang's order. The picture in the holographic projection moved again. Bang. A dull sound came, and many people on the scene trembled violently. The elevator hit the bottom. Due to these large pieces of rock and metal, the robots were still about 1 meter away from the open door. LV Yongchang waited for a moment, and after confirming that there was no abnormal situation, he gave an order. 0. Clear a path. Got it, Professor. 0 responded quickly. In the holographic picture, high energy laser beams and various cutting devices were put into action together. Half an hour later, a path leading to the gate was successfully cleared. The path was extremely narrow and only allowed one robot to pass through. LV Yongchang pondered for a moment and said, 0. Send a robot in to check it out. Got it. After the words fell, the holographic projection quietly switched. The camera angle slowly lowered. It was obvious that the robot was passing through a narrow path. It didn't take much time to walk through the 1 meter long passage. Soon, everyone's eyes suddenly opened up, and the scene at the gate came into view. This hiss, so disgusting, size, came from all around. LV Yongchang also frowned and looked at the picture in the holographic projection. Chapter 289 The True Appearance of Proxima Centauri. A mess. The moment he saw the picture, this word instantly popped up in LV Yongchang's mind. Next to the open door, there were several corpses wearing black clothes. Needless to say, these must be the dead Proxima Centauri. They were smashed into a paste by some stones and metal blocks. Pools of blue substances flowed out from these corpses, and after drying, they formed blue and black traces on the ground. This extremely shocking scene was presented to everyone. Blue blood. LV Yongchang frowned slightly and muttered in a low voice, the time of death should not be short. These Corpses and blood have signs of corruption. 0. Look for a relatively intact body. Fang Zhu, who was standing next to him, obviously heard his whisper and instantly cast a horrified look at him. Almost at the same time, Yongchang noticed the strange look Fang Zhu cast at him. He raised his head and looked at Fang Zhu with a bright smile on his face. Calm down, you won't feel anything after seeing this thing too much. Next time I'll take you to the biological laboratory to practice. Fang Zhu. The holographic projection screen began to change again. After turning several directions, the screen suddenly paused. Obviously, Zero found his target. The camera began to zoom in. Next to the gate, there was a disc-shaped control console. Next to the control console, a relatively intact body lay quietly there. The robot approached quickly. Then he stretched out his mechanical hand, caught him off the chair, and laid him flat on the ground. At this moment, humans finally saw the true face of Proxima Centauri. There was silence in the control center. Why does it feel a bit like a large cockroach? Zhaozhi's hesitant voice came. Yongchang's face also became strange. Zhaozhi was not wrong. At first glance, this body does look a bit like a large cockroach. Hard shell like back. 3 pairs of legs. The difference between Proxima Centauri and cockroaches is that Proxima Centauri has 2 pairs of extremely strong upper and lower limbs, and a pair of almost completely degenerated secondary limbs. Of course, the biggest difference is the head. Proxima Centauri has 3 pairs of eyes on the top of the head. There is a piece of skin covered with fine bumps. It must be said that, even though he was mentally prepared, Yongchang couldn't help but take a breath of cold air when he saw such a curious picture. 0. Save this body first and take it back to the biological laboratory after confirming safety. Hearing this, Fang Zhu's face suddenly changed. After thinking about the scene, he retched twice with some nausea. Yongchang naturally didn't care about the retching sound coming from around him. He controlled the camera's angle of view to turn back and forth and whispered, "It seems that the effect of this genetic weapon is not particularly strong. The genetic information we got before is indeed problematic." "What do you mean?" Fang Zhu asked Yongchang, suppressing his nausea. "Look, these Proxima people have obvious signs of struggle." Yongchang stretched out his hand and swept it across the air, magnifying several pictures several times. "This means that they have a little resistance to this genetic weapon. According to my expectation, once this genetic weapon breaks out, it will never give them a chance to struggle. At least, they will die unconsciously instead of struggling to escape." As he spoke, he simulated the chaotic scene at that time in his mind. Several Proxima people ran to the closed gate of the underground city and tried to escape from the underground city. A Proxima person came to the control console and opened a closed door. The tragedy happened. Boulders and metal blocks poured down, smashing these unfortunate Proxima people into paste. "Forget it, ignore these." Yongchang shook his head and threw the pictures in his mind out of his head. 0. Keep moving forward. In the underground city, the bodies of Proxima people can be seen everywhere. There are also some large and small monitors and consoles, but unfortunately, after the robot's exploration, these displays and consoles have been damaged. At least, they can't get any valuable data from them at present. Yongchang, who learned the news, shook his head with regret. What a pity. Before he finished sighing, an exciting notification popped up. A robot found an area closed by a heavy door. It looks like the core area of the dungeon. As for why there is such a judgment, it's very simple. There are several Proxima characters clearly marked on this door after Zero's translation. These words were converted into Chinese characters and presented in front of Yongchang. Core area. Unlike other areas, the access control in the core area is obviously in normal working condition. The display next to the door is also shining. Yongchang's eyes moved slightly, stopping Zero's simple and crude behavior of forcibly cracking it with a high energy laser beam. 0. Try to see if you can hack into their central computer through this access control system. In Zero second on the surface. A large 3D printer specially installed for this trip began to work. According to Zero's simulation calculation results, it quickly manufactured various hardware tools that met the standards of Proxima civilization. After the manufacturing was completed, a robot took these tools, took the elevator, and quickly came to the access control point with the help of the Proxima version of hardware tools. The robot quickly disassembled the access control device, revealing the slightly complex circuits and interfaces inside. So, it was the same process again. The 3D printer began to manufacture the corresponding adapter. After spending several hours, Zero finally successfully entered the access control system of Proxima civilization through the robot. 1 second later the sound of the transmission device sounded. The heavy and tightly closed door slowly opened. Zero? LV Yongchang asked in a low voice with some surprise in his eyes. So simple, perhaps. To better explain the reason, Zero projected his virtual image in front of everyone. Professor, the Proxima civilization does not have artificial intelligence, not even weak artificial intelligence. Their software development is roughly equivalent to humans in 2030. Hearing this, LV Yongchang was stunned. So backward? No wonder Zero found the loophole in the opponent's defense program so easily at that time. Zero's voice continued to sound. I successfully entered the central computer through their access control system. Professor, there is something you should be very interested in. LV Yongchang subconsciously asked. What? Dense Proxima text appeared on the huge holographic projection. Photon Computer Technology. Chapter 290 The Right Direction. Photon computer technology. LV Yongchang's eyes flashed with horror, and he subconsciously wanted to stand up from the chair, but he was forcibly pulled back by the electromagnetic absorption device on the chair. Hiss. He endured the slight pain from his waist and quickly said, Zero, translate these words. The holographic projection in front of the command center was divided into 2. On the left side of the projection, it was the original Proxima text. On the right side, a series of familiar Chinese characters began to appear as the length of the translation increased. The text of the translation began to change slightly. That was Zero making some adjustments based on the context. After all, some nouns or verbs are not universal between the two civilizations, and only after appropriate adjustments can they be understood. LV Yongchang frowned slightly, looking at the constantly changing translation in front of him. His heart was full of surprise. How is it possible? Proxima civilization actually mastered photon computer technology. Compared with the hardware level, their software level is like a kindergarten graduate. With such biased characteristics, it's no wonder that their development has stagnated. During the waiting time, LV Yongchang secretly complained about the development of his neighbors in his heart. Professor, the translation is complete. After a short waiting time, the constantly changing text on the holographic projection stabilized, and Zero's response sounded. LV Yongchang didn't speak, but checked it carefully. Perhaps because they realized the importance of this document, everyone in the command center stopped what they were doing. Several professional researchers, like LV Yongchang, cast their eyes on the holographic projection in front of them, trying to observe the so-called alien technology. And most of the researchers, after looking up at the heavenly book in front of them, cast their eyes on LV Yongchang, trying to see something from the expression on his face. For a long time. LV Yongchang exhaled a long breath of turbid air. How is it looking? At the satisfied and somewhat regretful look on LV Yongchang's face, Fang Zhu hurriedly asked. Faced with the inquiry, LV Yongchang nodded first, and then shook his head. This series of actions confused Fang Zhu. No, what do you mean by shaking your head and nodding your head? Fang Zhu said with a puzzled look on his face. Isn't this photon computer technology? LV Yongchang sighed slightly and whispered, it is indeed photon computer technology. Then you. Fang Zhu was speechless for a moment. Don't worry, listen to me first, LV Yongchang said, while stretching out his hand to drag the holographic projection in front of him in the air. It's just that it's not a mature photon computer. To put it simply, it's just a prototype. It provides us with a new direction for realizing photon computers. The central computer of the Proxima civilization should be built, based on the principle of this document. As he said this, LV Yongchang's eyes showed some expectation. I have a hunch that, if everything goes well, we should be able to build a real photon computer soon. Fang Zhu nodded blankly and said, then, why doesn't the Proxima civilization develop a real photon computer in this direction? LV Yongchang's face suddenly became strange. He stretched out his hand again and swept it across the air, magnifying the upper right corner of the translation. Did you see it? LV Yongchang pointed to the holographic image. This is the answer. The project is established, and it is expected to start research on this project in 50 years. Fang Zhu, fuck. This Proxima civilization, such an important research can be delayed for so long. LV Yongchang shrugged. It seems that what Atoka said at the beginning was right. This civilization has been rotten to the bone. As he said, he showed a bit of relief on his face. Fortunately, it is rotten to the bone, otherwise, we should be facing a real secondary civilization. Hearing this, everyone present showed relief on their faces. Professor, another team of robots has successfully entered the number 2 underground city. In order to facilitate the distinction, LV Yongchang divided the 2 underground cities into number 1 and number 2.0's voice was still calm. LV Yongchang immediately sat up. What did you find? The projection screen changed instantly. The same mess on the ground. However, there are obvious differences between the 2 underground cities. This underground city seems to be lower end. Fang Zhu said what Lu Yongchang was thinking. Not bad. Compared with underground city number 1, underground city number 2 is like a slums. Lu Yongchang squeezed out a few words. It seems that this is the class distinction that Atoka said. I didn't expect that it has come to this point, and these Proxima people are still doing this. As he said, he shook his head helplessly. The direction of the camera slowly changed. When he saw the corpse on the ground, Lu Yongchang's eyes moved suddenly. Stop. His expression became more serious. 0. Turn the camera back. 0. Quickly executed the order. Let the robot get closer. Lu Yongchang said again. The picture gradually zoomed in, and the slightly corrupted corpses looked particularly clear. What's so good about this? Aren't they just some Proxima people who are still in their infancy? Fang Zhu looked at the body in the picture that had obviously shrunk several times and said unhappily, do you want to bring them back? LV Yongchang did not respond to Fang Zhu's complaints, but looked at the holographic projection in front of him with a serious expression. Yongchang, Fang Zhu found the problem from LV Yongchang's expression, and he turned his head to look at the holographic screen again. This is not a young Proxima, LV Yongchang said firmly, but this body shape and appearance. LV Yongchang lowered his head and operated on the holographic projection in front of him, projecting a picture from the number 1 underground city onto the holographic image. If that is a young Proxima, then what is this? A Proxima corpse dressed in black and obviously much younger was clearly presented in front of everyone. This Fang Zhu was speechless for a moment. LV Yongchang frowned and stared at several pictures in the holographic projection. Suddenly, a flash of inspiration flashed in his mind. Perhaps this is a reason why our genetic weapons have deviated, he murmured to himself. Proxima civilization, composed of 2 different races. After a moment of silence, he suddenly spoke. 0. Look for it in the central computer of the number 1 underground city. Maybe there is relevant information. The completely different scenes of the 2 underground cities made Lu Yongchang realize a problem. Underground number 2 has almost no use value. The good things should be in underground number 1. Thinking of this, he issued an order again. Leave 10 robots in underground number 2, and the rest of the robots all go to underground number 1. The social structure of Proxima civilization has a big problem. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291 Biological More than 10 minutes later LV Yongchang looked at the information in front of him and fell silent. This is fucking. They actually used biotechnology for this, he said with an ugly face point at the same time. A hint of blood red flashed in his eyes. That was difficult for outsiders to detect. Cloning technology. This scientific forbidden technique with countless ethical issues is actually popular in the Proxima civilization. Even the entire civilization. Most of the population is manufactured by cloning technology. Proxima people with congenital defects. Professor, I found the complete manufacturing process and the construction plan of the incubation center. Zero's voice sounded in the quiet command center. At the same time, a large amount of Proxima text and translation appeared in front of everyone. Delete. LV Yongchang said in a low voice. Zero. Delete this information completely. Yongchang. Are you crazy? Mao Zedong's face changed drastically, and he stopped loudly. Their cloning technology is far superior to ours. Such a good learning opportunity. Okay, LV. Yongchang's voice became heavier and more serious. I am giving a formal order now. Delete all the information about the incubation center and clones. Zero naturally would not resist the order issued by LV Yongchang. Looking at the rapidly disappearing Proxima text in the holographic projection, Mao Zedong was so anxious that his face turned red, and he couldn't even say a complete sentence for a while. Seeing that the information was completely deleted, LV Yongchang breathed a sigh of relief. Academician Mao, humans must never pursue this technology. Why? Mao Zedong was obviously a little bit overwhelmed at this time. He was emotional and said with a flushed face, you should know how many lives mature organ cloning can save. This is an opportunity for human biology to make historic progress, but you ruined it. Organ cloning is organ cloning, and the two are not the same thing. LV Yongchang's indifferent eyes were a little majestic. We can achieve organ replication through other means instead of using the cloning technology of Proxima civilization. Academician Mao Zedong, you are confused. LV Yongchang's tone of voice was unprecedentedly harsh. The command center was dead silent. Whether it was the researchers, the pilots, or the captains, at this moment, they all looked at LV Yongchang sitting on the command platform in silence. They had never seen LV Yongchang like this, looking at LV Yongchang's sharp eyes. Mao Zedong's momentum gradually declined. His lips trembled slightly, and he whispered, why? Seeing that Mao Zedong no longer insisted on his opinion, LV Yongchang also slowed down his tone a little. The Proxima civilization will end up like this, largely due to this cloning technology. Let's not talk about the ethical issues caused by cloning technology. The congenitally deficient clone group Meris and the normal Proxima people are destined to split into two incompatible groups. No matter how strictly it is prohibited, discrimination against the clone group cannot be eliminated. This is also one of the reasons why the class division of Proxima civilization is so obvious. What consequences will this cause? You can think about the genome information sent to us by Atoka. Mao Zedong's face changed slightly. LV Yongchang pondered for a moment and continued. This is just one aspect of the problem. The lifespan of Proxima people is more than 500 Earth years. Although the specific reason is unknown at present, such longevity obviously makes the above problems more obvious. It is difficult for them to use time to erase the inherent views of the older generation. At the beginning of the appearance of the clone Meris, the Proxima civilization injected with fresh blood may have gone through a stage of rapid development, but what will it face next? I think I don't need to repeat it. Mao Zedong's face became more and more ugly. He slowly lowered his proud head and whispered, I know. Of course, the cloning technology cannot be used, but it does not mean that we cannot learn other biotechnology. LV Yongchang stretched out his hand to drag the holographic image in front of him. You can study the remaining biotechnology carefully. The opportunity to break through the upper limit of human lifespan may be in these large cockroaches. Wait, I will let Ling organize a set of information for you. Mao Zedong's face seized slightly. He nodded gently. I'll try my best. After Solving the cloning technology. Yongchang secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He leaned back in his chair and slowly closed his eyes. His consciousness entered the technology tree space. Looking at the technology tree system that had returned to its original appearance, he put down the huge stone hanging in his heart. The various reasons he just mentioned were not actually the fundamental reasons why he rejected this technology. The most fundamental factor came from the technology tree system deep in his brain. The moment he learned about the cloning technology and the incubation center technology, his consciousness was forced to enter the technology tree system. The technology tree system space, which originally had a fluorescent green background, turned into a blood red color with a warning meaning. A branch suddenly stretched out from the side of the technology tree that was originally growing straight towards the second level civilization. Biotechnology, cloning technology. Unlike the usual Demichans, this newly appeared cursor has a strong blood color, as if to warn him of the dangers of this technology. He subconsciously focused his attention on this bloody icon. At that moment, another history of human civilization seemed to appear in his mind. Similar to the Proxima civilization, artificial intelligence has not developed at all. Accordingly, cloning technology is popular. Countless clones have taken on the heavy, dirty, and tiring work at the bottom. They use their lives to support the normal humans in the upper class of society. Biotechnology has made breakthroughs layer by layer, and human life expectancy has increased significantly. Civilization has also developed rapidly. The threshold of the first level civilization has been quickly broken, and humans have quickly entered the second level civilization. But the good times did not last long. As the oppression and discrimination of humans against the clone group became increasingly serious, the gap between the clone group and normal humans began to appear. The two forces gradually diverged. War broke out. The clone group, which occupied 80% of the population of civilization, won the initial victory of the war with its numerical advantage. In the face of hopelessness of survival, the human group used weapons of mass destruction. Humans stopped at the second level civilization. Yongchang's consciousness returned to the system space. He stared at the blood red cursor in front of him in horror, and the scene that seemed to be happening in reality kept appearing in his mind. After a very brief thought, he pulled his consciousness out of the system space and resolutely issued an order to delete the file. Chapter 292 Lifespan Issue. One day later, Yongchang continued to organize data as he did the day before. Like human civilization, Proxima Centauri civilization stores almost all scientific research data in the central computer. Perhaps it was because of the suddenness of the outbreak of genetic weapons, or perhaps because of the negligence of the person in charge of the Proxima Centauri civilization. The central computers in both dungeons maintain excellent integrity. This also provides human civilization with an excellent learning opportunity. On live quality of these data, there is zero screening mechanism. Can only use the technology mastered by humans as a benchmark to eliminate duplicate content from the two civilizations for those research projects that humans have never conducted since ancient times. Zero means helpless. As a result, the style of battlefield organization work has changed dramatically. In the command center, scientific researchers stared at the holographic projection in front of them, trying to find some useful technology from the weird research materials. After all, with the efficiency of the Proxima Centauri civilization, no one knows whether a certain piece of information may contain a scientific and technological development direction that humans have not yet discovered. For example, this information was placed in front of Yongchang, a protective device for auxiliary limbs. Yongchang sighed slightly, flipped through a few pages, and extracted part of the content. Secondary limb protection device. Why do humans need this kind of thing? However, the synthesis method of this new type of material can be absorbed into the database of human civilization, and maybe it will be used when, Professor, the chairman of the council wants to see you for something. Just as Yongchang was about to continue checking the next document, Zero's voice sounded in his ears. Yongchang suddenly stopped. President Zero did not continue to speak, but presented a message in the holographic projection in front of him. Professor, according to the latest examination results, the chairman's physical condition is not optimistic. Lu Yongchang's face changed slightly, and he immediately prepared to stand up point. But when he saw the curious eyes of the scientific researchers around him, he changed his mind. He slowed down his movements as much as possible, and even smiled at Fang Zhu beside him. Brother Zhu, the chairman is going to discuss the next plan with me. I'll take the first step, and you can help me keep an eye on this. Fang Zhu didn't think much, nodded and focused on the holographic projection in front of him again. Seeing that no one was paying attention to his actions, he gently unlocked the electromagnetic absorption device on the seat. Afterwards, he walked out of the command center with steps that were almost the same as before. The moment he closed the door, Lu Yongchang's expression changed drastically. He lowered his voice and said urgently, "Zero, what's going on?" The holographic image was projected around him again, and Zero's response echoed, "Professor, the speaker is 85 years old." Hearing this, Lu Yongchang was heartbroken. Yes, so many years have passed. Even excluding the period of hibernation, the council chairman has reached the age of 85. The old diseases left behind in the past are the biggest culprit affecting the lifespan of the older generation. Therefore, even if humans have medical cabin technology, the average lifespan will be increased to 90 years. But for these overworked old people like the Speaker of Parliament, 90 is still an elusive goal. He quickly quickened his pace and rushed towards the room where the chairman of the parliament was. The door opens automatically. Lu Yongchang panted slightly and stepped into the room of the chairman of the council. Yongchang, a gentle smile appeared on the old man's face. He raised his hand tremblingly and waved to Lu Yongchang. A familiar but faint voice sounded, "Come, sit down." Looking at the old man with white hair and wrinkles on his face behind the desk, Lu Yongchang's eyes suddenly turned a little red. He walked silently to the speaker and sat on the chair. "Chairman, your body." The smile on the old man's face became gentler, and he slowly shook his head. "Zero has already told me the test results. According to the inspection results of the medical cabin, I should have less than a year left." Lu Yongchang's breath was suffocated. "Is there only 1 year left?" He lowered his head and said with a low expression. Every detail of how the speaker took care of him flashed through his mind, and the old man chuckled, stretched out his hand, and gently put it on Lu Yongchang's shoulder. "What are you sad about? Human beings, birth, old age, illness, and death are normal things. I have lived for 85 years and witnessed with my own eyes the development of Zaya State to the current People's Federation. It is enough." The old man's slightly cloudy eyes moved, revealing a bit of emotion. "Let's not talk about these old things. The main reason I called you here today is to confirm what will happen in the future." Lu Yongchang did not speak, but looked at the old man in front of him with slightly red eyes. The old man was silent for a moment. "What do you think of Han Kaiming?" Lu Yongchang heard the meaning of the old man's words. He frowned and thought for a moment. Later, he gave a very pertinent evaluation. "Very good, but just good." The smile on the old man's face gradually grew stronger. "That's enough. Currently, human beings need a stable rear environment. He's a good candidate. Next, I plan to let him take over my work gradually. As for the opinions of other councillors," a hint of sharpness flashed in the old man's turbid eyes, "I will solve it." LV Yongchang nodded silently and said, "I believe you." The room fell silent again. After a long time, the old man exhaled a long breath. "Next, what are you going to do?" LV Yongchang pondered for a moment and said word by word, "Keep moving forward. Proxima Centauri is about to go out. The resources of this star system are too scarce. I plan to repair it here for a period of time and then go to a star system that is more suitable for human habitation." The old man closed his eyes slightly and said in a breath, "Okay, human civilization, I'll leave it to you." After walking out of the councillor's room, LV Yongchang took a deep breath. "Zero, show me the councillor's last inspection report." The holographic projection unfolded, and rows of data appeared in front of him. Looking at the bad data that was approaching the critical point, LV Yongchang sighed slightly. Zero was right. According to current data, The chairman of the parliament can only last for a year at most. Point it may even be shorter, whether it is out of selfishness or for the stability of the people's union. Lu Yongchang finds it difficult to accept such a fact. Point he remembered what he said to Mao Zedong 2 days ago. Point the Proxima civilization with an average age of 500 years. A gleam of light flashed in his eyes, and he said in a deep voice, "Zero, let Mao Zedong come to my office. Don't alarm anyone." After speaking, he took a step and strode towards his office. Chapter 293 Telomeres. More than 10 minutes later the office door opened quietly. "Professor, Academician Mao is here." Zero's reminder sounded at the same time. "Professor Lu, are you looking for me?" Mao Zedong stood at the door and asked in a low voice with a bit of anxiety on his face. Point he had just been reprimanded yesterday, and now he still had some psychological shadow. Point is it possible that I still need to be reprimanded today? Thinking of what might happen next, Mao Zedong felt a hint of bitterness in his heart. Point Lu Yongchang raised his head and waved to Mao Zedong. "Academician Mao, come." Upon hearing the call, Mao Zedong swallowed slightly and moved a few steps into the room, as if he were dead. Point seeing Mao Zedong's twitchy movements, Lu Yongchang couldn't help but be stunned, and then remembered some unpleasant things that happened yesterday. Cough. He coughed lightly. "Don't worry, I'm not looking for you today about human cloning technology." Hearing this, Mao Zedong breathed a sigh of relief and sat down on the chair in front of Lu Yongchang. Click. The crisp sound from the electromagnetic absorption device sounded. Point he stretched out his hand to wipe the sweat from his forehead with a look of shame on his face. "Professor, actually, I thought about it for a long time last night." "Oh." Lu Yongchang saw Mao Zedong's expression, and a smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "What? You still can't let go of the human cloning technology, right?" No, Mao Zedong shook his head like a rattle. "I thought about it carefully, and it is true that, as you said, human cloning technology has too many hidden dangers. For the current human civilization, there is absolutely no need to take the wrong path and choose such a dangerous path." Lu Yongchang smiled and nodded. "As long as you can figure it out, I'm looking for you today mainly for another thing." As he spoke, he stretched out his hand in the air. A holographic image appeared in front of Mao Zedong. This Mao Zedong's face changed slightly, and he lowered his voice and asked, "Whose physical examination report is this?" As the developer of the medical cabin, Mao Zedong naturally knew what these data meant. "President." Lu Yongchang gently spit out 3 words. "Hiss." Mao Zedong gasped suddenly, causing the temperature in the office to drop by 0.00001 degrees Celsius. "I remember the congressman is only 85 years old. How could his body age like this?" Lu Yongchang's eyes showed a bit of helplessness. It should be related to his previous life schedule. When he was on Earth, the burden on him was too heavy, and overexertion overtaxed his body functions. Currently, the next speaker of the People's League has not yet been determined. The speaker believes that Councillor Hong is a good choice, but it will probably take a lot of time to convince other members. Of course, out of selfishness, I also hope that the old chairman can live a little longer. Mao Zedong instantly understood what Lu Yongchang meant. Point he looked at Lu Yongchang solemnly. "So, you want to use the biotechnology of Proxima Centauri civilization to break the limit of human lifespan? Not bad." Lu Yongchang nodded lightly. Points different from the past. Thanks to the medical cabin, the congressman was in good health at this time and did not have any diseases in his body that would affect his lifespan. Point he is simply aging. Point this is also the most troublesome thing. Point aging is irreversible. This has been the experience of humans for thousands of years. Mao Zedong obviously knew this the moment he heard Lu Yongchang's words. His brows furrowed tightly. Point according to current theoretical calculations, the longest human lifespan is about 120 years old. Point this number is based on the cell division formula. Point simply put, every time a human cell divides, the telomeres at the end of the DNA decrease a little. Point from this, based on the total length of telomeres, the number of cell divisions in a human's lifetime can be estimated 50 times. This is the division limit of normal human cells. The lifespan of each generation of cells is approximately 2.4 years. Based on this calculation, The maximum lifespan of human beings is 120 years. Of course, there are other calculation methods. For example, the Gompertz model is a mathematical model used to describe the extinction laws of biological populations. According to this model calculation, the maximum lifespan of human beings is about 120 to 130 years old. For another example, calculate based on the universal lifespan of mammals on Earth. The lifespan of mammal is 5 to 8 times its growth period. The maximum human lifespan derived in this way is about 125 years old. Either way, it proves a point. No matter how advanced medical technology is, until the telomere problem is not solved, the maximum lifespan of humans will only be around 120 years old. So, we have to start with telomeres. Mao Zedong concluded in a low voice. After saying that, he suddenly raised his head and looked directly at Liu Yongchang. Professor, I have an idea. Zhuangzi quietly sailed out of the Earth starship. Unlike other Zhuangzi, the interior of this Zhuangzi has been greatly modified. The entire cabin has been transformed into a small biological laboratory. In Zhuangzi, Liu Yongchang, Fang Zhu, and Mao Zedong were wearing strict protective suits and sitting in the cockpit with serious expressions. 0. Go directly to Proxima B. Liu Yongchang gave his order. As soon as the voice fell, a strong recoil pressed the three people to the chair. Zhuangzi also headed straight for Proxima B. Yongchang, Fang Zhu's voice sounded in the team's radio. Do we really have to go to the surface of Proxima B to do experiments? Before Liu Yongchang spoke, Mao Zedong on the side said, of course. At that time, we will also dissect several Proxima bodies for sampling. You don't want to see their organs flying all over the sky, do you? Fang Zhu's face was better thinking of the scene of organs flying. He vomited subconsciously. Yongchang, I think the command center may need me. Shut up. LV Yongchang interrupted Fang Zhu unhappily. As my deputy, how can you not have this kind of tolerance? I promised to take you to the biological laboratory to broaden your horizons 2 days ago. It's already this time. Don't think about running away. Fang Zhu's expression became more and more bitter. But I'm not a biology major. Don't worry, you will be soon. As he spoke, LV Yongchang stared at the orange-yellow planet in the distance and said casually, as the second in command of the Academy of Sciences, these basic common sense still need to be mastered. Fang Zhu, looking at Proxima B getting closer and closer, his face became more and more gray. Chapter 294, Anatomy. Proxima B. In front of the number 1 underground city cabin, as Zhuangzi slowly landed. Under Zero's control, more than a dozen robots carried more than a dozen metal coffins and waited quietly at the landing point of Zhuangzi. In the metal coffins, of course, were carefully selected Proxima bodies after layers of screening. These more than a dozen bodies were not only extremely fresh, but also contained various stages of Proxima and Merissa. Hatch of Zhuangzi slowly opened, and more than a dozen robots carried coffins in one after another. LV Yongchang and the other two were already wearing strict protective clothing and waiting beside the laboratory table. They needed to dissect these more than a dozen bodies, and then collect samples from various parts with the help of the robot. The first metal coffin was slowly opened. LV Yongchang carefully examined the body in front of him. The skin was loose, the back carapace tissue was dull, and the body was thin and curled up. It was an elderly Proxima. The body was well preserved without any signs of corruption. I don't know whose body this is, and it can be preserved in this way. LV Yongchang muttered to himself with a hint of doubt in his eyes. Before he finished speaking, a holographic image appeared in front of LV Yongchang. It showed the identity information that Zero found in the central computer database. Name, Augustus. Identity, Chief Lyle of Proxima Academy. Age, 639 years old. Death time, Earth calendar 2147.3.6. Right square bracket left square bracket. Discovery location, storage freezer in the core area of underground city number 1. Biography, born in the academy, started basic education at the age of 20, completed basic education at the age of 50, completed higher education at the age of 80, joined the academy at the age of 85, served as chief while at the age of 120 until death. Honor and achievements. Looking at the dense information in front of him, Yongchang opened his mouth slightly, and for a moment he didn't know what to say. Yongchang, this old man has the same identity as you. Fang Zhu's voice came from the team radio. Yongchang turned his head and looked at Fang Zhu. He was holding a scalpel, poking the Proxima in front of him with the back of the knife with interest. Yongchang, how about you do the dissection? Fang Zhu paused, threw the scalpel aside, and retreated behind Yongchang. Mao Zhengxi, who was standing by, had already picked up the scalpel skillfully and pressed it gently on the abdomen of the Proxima. The sharp blade gently passed. The dissection began. Looking at the dissection scene in front of him, Fang Zhu's face gradually became ugly. Here, a scalpel was handed to him. After watching for so long, I think you should have some experience, right? Yongchang's devilish voice came from the side. Why don't you go up and try your hand? Fang Zhu shook his head repeatedly, with a resistance in his eyes that seemed to be materialized. No, 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 such an important experimental sample. Don't worry, it's okay. Under the mask, Yongchang showed a kind smile. We have taken out the important organs. Just go up and try your hand. As he said, Yongchang pointed to the operating table beside him. On it, various organs of different shapes were placed in different categories. Fang Zhu. A few minutes later he trembled as he moved the scalpel and cut open the atrophied muscle tissue. Feeling the extremely slippery touch, Fang Zhu's eyes twitched violently. Hold it. If you vomit, there are no spare protective suits for you to change. Yongchang kindly reminded. You have to stay with your vomit for at least a few hours. Fang Zhu. A few hours passed in a flash. I have to admit that the exercise method proposed by Yongchang is really effective. Yongchang, look, compared with normal Proxima Centauri, Meris organs are obviously much weaker. Fang Zhu reached out and removed a set of organs with a normal expression and then placed it on a special table. Yongchang stopped the sampling work in his hands, leaned over to glance at the thing in Fang Zhu's hand, and then glanced at the holographic projection. Name, number 12, identity, leader of the Merisan underground city. Number 2, age 224 years old. Death time, Earth calendar 2147.3.24. Right square bracket left square bracket right square bracket left square bracket. Honorary information. Made outstanding contributions to the reform of the old system of Proxima Centauri. Yongchang nodded thoughtfully. That's normal. The technical defects of cloning are too great. The physical conditions of these Meris should be similar. They are all defective products. But what's the matter with this old system reform? He turned his head and looked at the camera next to him. Zero. Is this new information? Zero's response sounded immediately. Yes, Professor. I found the relevant information in the central computer of the number 2 underground city. Before we arrived at the Proxima system, the Proxima civilization launched an old system reform. Ordinary Proxima people and Meris joined forces to put pressure on the Academy of Sciences and the royal family to gain a chance to survive. Yongchang frowned slightly. Then what? Didn't the old system reform succeed? Why is the number 2 underground city where they live still so backward? On the contrary, they succeeded. Link said calmly. The holographic projection unfolded. The entire historical data was directly presented in front of Yongchang. When he saw the leader of the number 2 underground city, walk step by step towards the enemy camp and then be used to death, he shook his head helplessly. What a pity. The Dragon Slayer eventually becomes a dragon. In such a deformed social system, this is his inescapable fate. He pondered for a moment and spoke again. Zero. Collect as much historical data of the Proxima civilization as possible. Received. Zero replied without any hesitation. The holographic projection gradually dimmed. Keep working. Yongchang sighed slightly and said to the two people around him, after the sampling is over, we have other things to do. There was silence in the small laboratory. Yongchang, where are you going to use their historical data? Fang Zhu's question broke the quiet environment of the laboratory. A trace of confusion flashed in LV Yongchang's eyes. Museum. This doesn't seem to be of much use. Document database. This is even more useless. I suggest that it be included in the latest textbooks. Mao Zengzi, who was working on the side, whispered, history is a mirror that can help us understand the rise and fall of things. In addition to the original history of mankind, we should include the history of other civilizations to let them serve as a constant warning to human civilization. LV Yongchang pondered for a moment and nodded solemnly. Okay. Chapter 295 Special Organs. The autopsies of more than a dozen Proxima Centauri were completed. Liu Yongchang wiped off the blue-black blood stained on his gloves and gently hammered his sore waist through the protective clothing. It's finally over. As he spoke, he yawned. The workload of dissecting more than 10 corpses in a row is indeed exaggerated. Especially the anatomy of a completely alien body of another race. Compared with dissecting Earth creatures, the difficulty of the two is not at the same level. However, there are definitely benefits. One of the benefits is a huge holographic image in front of the three people. In the projection, the body structure models of Proxima Centauri and Malus have been completely constructed. In addition to the digestive system, circulatory system and other systems that humans also have, Liu Yongchang also discovered an organ that is independent of other major systems and has a strange shape. This organ is located in the center of the Proxima Centauri body, surrounded by a hard shell-like substance and connected to blood vessels from all sides of the body. Through blood vessels, it connects every corner of the Proxima Centauri body. At first, Liu Yongchang subconsciously thought that it was similar to the human heart, which mainly functions as blood transport and is part of the circulatory system. But soon, Liu Yongchang discovered another core in the body of the Proxima Centauri. Whether in terms of muscle composition or structure, the second core discovered is more like the heart of Proxima Centauri. The reason is simple. The core discovered for the second time can beat like a human heart. The core discovered for the first time has a surface as hard as a rock. Now, the problem is big. Do Proxima Centauri have two hearts with completely different structures? This makes little sense both emotionally and rationally. In order to decipher the function of this unique organ, the three of them had a heated debate. Finally, Liu Yongchang made the decision directly. Get on the chainsaw. In a burst of harsh cutting sounds, the organ as hard as stone was cut in half. Filter? Liu Yongchang couldn't help but said to himself the moment he saw the internal structure of the organ. It does look a bit like layers of filters. Fangzhu on the side confirmed Liu Yongchang's question. From this point of view, it should be the blood purification organ of Proxima Centauri. No, it's not that simple. Mao Zengzi shook his head repeatedly. He reached out and picked up a pair of tweezers, peeling off the filter-like tissue layer by layer inside. There is a lot of flock-like material. How could there be so many impurities in the blood of Proxima Centauri people? Mao Zengzi's face was full of doubts. Are you kidding? Liu Yongchang frowned and took out a part of the flocculent substance and spread it on the table aside. Kind of like dead skin. No. To be precise, it's like skin flakes. He suddenly raised his head and looked at Mao Zengzi beside him. Did you bring a microscope? Take it and see what it is. Mao Zengzi nodded solemnly, reached out to take the sample, and left the dissecting table. Half an hour later, Mao Zengzi quickly returned to the autopsy table. The test results are out. Seeing the two people's attention directed towards him, he said in a deep voice, it's all kinds of cell debris. Besides, it's not an ordinary cell. What do you mean? Liu Yongchang was a little confused about Mao Zengzi's statement. Mao Zengzi made a gesture and turned on the holographic projection. In the projection, the picture in the microscope was clearly displayed. Look. Mao Zengzi looked a little excited. Even if the cells are fragmented, we can still identify some of their characteristics. I just asked Zero to do an analysis to compare these cell debris with the cells in various areas we sampled. Guess what's the result? Liu Yongchang, Fangzhu, I guess you. Liu Yongchang swallowed the curse words he was about to blurt out and said with a smile, Academician Mao, I advise you to be careful in your words and actions. As he spoke, he glanced at Fangzhu beside him. Fangzhu, Mao Zhengzi, ahem. Mao Zhengzi coughed lightly and straightened his expression. At first, Zero didn't find cells similar to it until I changed my mind. I asked Zero to perform a fuzzy comparison, and through some subtle features, I finally found the prototype cell corresponding to it. Hearing this, Lu Yongchang's eyes moved slightly. You mean prototype? Under the mask, Mao Zhengzi's eyes flashed with a strange light. Not bad. Prototype. According to the Zero comparison results, these cell debris come from cells that have undergone structural changes, and the prototypes of these cells come from all over the body of Proxima Centauri. Hiss. Lu Yongchang took a sharp breath and muttered to himself, cancer cells. Yes, it's cancer cells. Mao Zhengzi's voice suddenly became louder. What appeared in my mind at that time were also cancer cells. These cell residues are dead cancer cells in the Proxima Centauri people, and this special organ should be a detoxification and purification device. We all know that there are many detoxification organs in the human body, such as the skin, lymphatic system, lungs, kidneys, liver, etc. Obviously, this organ of Proxima Centauri is different from the human detoxification organ. It is more targeted. It only works on cancer cells. LV. Yongchang stared at the holographic image in front of him in a daze. Cancer cells are the product of normal cells being affected by carcinogenic factors during the process of division and differentiation. In addition to the telomere problem, this is also a major reason for the short lifespan of humans. As humans age, they are exposed to more and more carcinogenic factors, and the probability of cancer occurring during cell division and differentiation is also increasing. Thus, it has an impact on human lifespan. So, this is the secret of the longevity of Proxima Centauri. Mao Zhengzi nodded and shook his head. That should be part of the reason. Proxima b is too close to the main star. Even with a thick atmosphere, the surface still has a huge dose of high energy rays. Under the influence of these high energy rays, the probability of Proxima people's cells becoming cancerous is greatly increased, and this unique organ is their secret to dealing with high energy rays. In theory, it can only allow Proxima people to live a little longer within the upper limit of their lifespan. Mao Zhengzi shrugged. To put it simply, it is as close to the upper limit as possible, but it cannot break through the upper limit. Hearing this, Lu Yongchang suddenly realized something. So, what should be the theoretical upper limit of Proxima people's lifespan? Mao Zhengzi's face froze. At present, we don't have enough equipment, and I can't test their chromosomes now. This is a big project, and it may take some time to get the results. Chapter 296, Unique Advantages. A week later, the long battlefield cleanup work finally came to an end. To Lu Yongchang's surprise, there were quite a few good things in the Proxima central computer apart from anything else. The information on the Hall thruster alone was enough to improve the strength of the human fleet to a higher level. According to Zero's preliminary estimate, the improved Hall thruster was more efficient, enough to allow the human fleet to reach a maximum speed of 20% of the speed of light outside the star system. This is undoubtedly a huge improvement, especially for human civilization. The Proxima system, whose main star is about to go out, is destined to be just a springboard for replenishing supplies, and they will eventually go to the next resource-rich and habitable star system. As for the target, the Proxima civilization has found a destination for them. The Ross 154 star system, 8.24 light-years away from Proxima. Ross 154, with Proxima as the origin, the main star Ross 154 has a mass of 17% of the sun and a radius of about 24% of the sun. Like Proxima, it is also a red dwarf in its teenage years according to the exploration of Proxima civilization. There are 3 gas giants and 4 solid planets in the Ross 154 star system. Although these solid planets are not very similar to the Earth, for humans at present, they are the best choice within 10 light-years nearby. Every time he sees the extremely detailed exploration data in the database, LV Yongchang is grateful to the Proxima civilization from the bottom of his heart. Thank them for their hard work in exploration for hundreds of years. Otherwise, he would need to spend a lot of energy to explore the right star system. Professor, academician Mao Zhengzi has something to ask you. Zeros Voice broke LV Yongchang's thoughts. HMM. His eyes moved slightly. Are there any results in the experiment? Yes. Hearing Zero's response. A hint of excitement flashed in LV Yongchang's eyes. He immediately untied the electromagnetic absorption device, stood up from the chair, and walked out of the office. Earth Biological Main Laboratory. Professor, there are results. As soon as the door of the laboratory was opened, Mao Zedong's excited shout reached LV Yongchang's ears. LV Yongchang hurriedly quickened his pace, quickly walked to Mao Zedong's side, and cast a puzzled look at him. Looking at LV Yongchang's curious eyes, Mao Zedong subconsciously wanted to keep it a secret point, but thinking of his experience on Proxima B a few days ago, he quickly killed the wrong idea in his heart. Ahem. Mao Zedong cleared his throat and reached out to call up the results of various experiments. Professor, the chromosomes of Proxima civilization also have parts similar to telomeres. Not only are the structures similar, but their functions in the cell division process are also very similar. It also ensures the integrity and stability of chromosomes. LV Yongchang was not surprised by this. From the genetic data sent by Proxima civilization, it can be seen that there are many similarities between Proxima genes and human genes, about 10%, although it looks like a lot. In fact, this number is actually ridiculously low. The genetic similarity between humans and bananas is more than 50%. So, what did you find from the telomeres of these Proxima people? He asked, taking a sip from the bag of drinking water beside him. The maximum lifespan of Proxima people is about 80 years old. Cough. Cough cough. Hearing this, LV Yongchang couldn't help but cough violently. After swallowing the remaining water in his mouth with great difficulty, he looked at Mao Zedong beside him in disbelief. Ah, you sure? 80 and 639. The difference is a bit big. 639 is the lifespan of Augustus. In view of his death from genetic weapons, his maximum lifespan should be much higher than this number. Even if we don't talk about individual cases, the average lifespan of 500 years alone is far higher than the answer given by Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong shrugged. At that time, I also suspected that I had seen it wrong. I even asked Zero to verify it more than 10 times, but the results are the same. LV Yongchang's mood calmed down a little. As a scientist, after a brief surprise, his first reaction was to think about the reasons behind this phenomenon. His brain was spinning rapidly. The brain, which had been strengthened by the system day after day, quickly associated it with a substance, telomerase. Mao Zedong was a little surprised. He didn't expect LV Yongchang to grasp the key point so quickly. Not bad. He nodded and reached out to open another file. I found a substance in their cells. It has a very similar effect to telomerase. However, this substance exists in every cell of Proxima Centauri. They can synthesize and replenish the telomere material worn out during cell division. At this point, Mao Zedong paused slightly, and a 3D simulation animation began to play in the holographic projection in front of him. According to Zero's calculation simulation, the degree of telomere wear of these Proxima Centauri within 100 years old is almost zero. In other words, the synthesis rate of telomerase is extremely close to the rate of telomere wear. In the projection, cells divide again and again, and the telomere-like material behind the chromosome slowly decreases, but the telomerase-like enzyme quickly synthesizes the telomere-like material to replenish the worn part. Such a process will not change until you are 100 years old. Mao Zedong shrugged. There are not many experimental samples, so this is also a rough estimate. This time will vary from person to person. Some may be 110, 120, or even 150 years old, while others may be 80 or 90 years old. This is also the reason for the huge difference in the lifespan of Proxima Centauri people. After a critical point, telomere wear begins to accelerate. The rate of telomerase synthesis remained unchanged. As a result, telomeres start to shorten until they disappear. The 3D animation in the holographic projection then stopped playing. Lu Yongchang's face was filled with exclamation point. He took a long breath and sighed in a low voice. Sometimes I have to sigh at the magic of the universe. Mao Zedong interrupted his sigh. That's not all the magic. Remember that special organ we discovered then? Lu Yongchang was stunned for a moment, then reacted instantly. You mean the organ that specializes in swallowing cancer cells? Mao Zengzi nodded, his eyes full of envy. Even with the help of telomere-like and telomerase-like enzymes, these cells will still produce a large number of mutations during the continuous division process. This mutation probability will continue to grow as the number of divisions increases, and that special organ just solves the problems of Proxima Centauri people. They don't need to worry about their cells becoming cancerous. As he spoke, he smiled bitterly. Compared to Proxima Centauri, humans don't seem to like the creator in this regard. Chapter 297 Gene Fragment. Hearing this, LV Yongchang fell silent. When on Earth, humans considered themselves to be higher animals compared with other creatures in the natural world of Earth. Humans seem to be a unique existence point possessing high intelligence, huge numbers, and good at using and making various tools. With thousands of advantages, humans have successfully climbed to the top of the food chain on Earth. As soon as they stepped out of Earth, humans discovered primary extraterrestrial life on Mars and Titan. Even so, those low-end lives struggling near the lifeline still did not bring much touch to LV Yongchang and others. After all, the two are not at the same level at all. Until leaving the hotbed of the solar system, they met the Proxima civilization. As so-called higher intelligent creatures, Proxima people seem to have too many innate advantages compared to humans. High resistance to radiation, long life. Each of these is a racial characteristic that humans can never reach. In contrast, humans are like a discarded child casually fabricated by the creator. This is just an ordinary civilization of the same level. Thinking of the level division in the technology tree system, LV Yongchang sighed softly. I really don't know what kind of unique innate conditions those high-level civilizations will have. He shook his head and threw away the distracting thoughts in his mind. Can this telomerase-like substance be extracted? LV Yongchang asked in a low voice. Mao Zengzi also came back to his senses from his sigh. He frowned slightly and responded softly, it may be a bit troublesome. There are still too few well-preserved Proxima samples. The telomerase-like substances that can be extracted are probably pitifully few. What's more, Mao Zengzi paused and continued, these Proxima people have been dead for a long time, and their cell activity has completely disappeared. Even if those substances are extracted, they are useless. If they are injected into the body of Earth organisms rashly, it will only cause a strong rejection reaction. LV Yongchang sighed softly. What a troublesome thing. The gap between two civilized creatures several light years apart is greater than the gap between humans and plants. This greatly increased the difficulty of biological experiments. Unlike LV Yongchang, Mao Zengzi was quite optimistic. He said with a smile, be content. At least, the Proxima civilization is still a carbon-based life form. If it is a silicon-based life form, we will be at a loss, right? LV Yongchang was slightly stunned and laughed. That's true. He thought for a moment and said again, let's start with genes. First, find the gene fragment related to the synthesis of this telomerase-like substance. With the help of 0, plus the previous experience of cracking the Atoka gene, this time the cracking work did not encounter too much difficulty. It only took a week, and the gene fragment related to the telomerase-like substance was presented to everyone. The real difficulty also came. After all, this is the gene of an extraterrestrial civilization. Even though it has a few similarities, it does not follow the human gene coding rules. In other words, this gene fragment cannot be directly used by humans in the main biological laboratory. Mao Zengzi looked at LV Yongchang helplessly. What should we do now? The entire experiment seemed to have come to a standstill at this moment. Not to mention LV Yongchang. At least, when Mao Zengzi saw that string of strange gene fragments, he felt a headache. This thing is not something that can be solved by humans' current biotechnology. LV Yongchang's eyes were also full of helplessness. He is not a god, and he is naturally confused when facing this unprecedented situation. If it were the original he could still try to seek help from the technology tree system point, but now, because the photon computer has not been successfully developed, the technology tree system is also stuck at the first level civilization point. This kind of biotechnology is obviously beyond the scope that the first level civilization should master. Thinking of this, LV Yongchang's thoughts paused slightly. Wait, human biotechnology is not enough. What about Proxima civilization? He breathed a little quickly and immediately asked, 0. Show all the biotechnology information found in the central computer of Proxima civilization. A huge holographic image instantly appeared in the biological laboratory. Looking at the densely packed entries in it, he subconsciously frowned. Screen out the biotechnology related to genes. 1 second later, the interface that was simplified several times appeared in front of LV Yongchang. LV Yongchang glanced at it casually. Proxima gene coding principle, Proxima gene compilation project. Looking at the Chinese characters in the holographic projection, LV Yongchang's heart was pounding. There is a way, he muttered to himself. As he spoke, he stood up and walked quickly towards the door of the biological laboratory. Mao Zhengxi, hey. He hurriedly untied the electromagnetic absorption device on the chair and quickly followed LV Yongchang's footsteps. Professor LV, what are you going to do? If human technology doesn't work, use the means of Proxima civilization to solve it. Mao Zhengxi's breath was choked and he subconsciously slowed down his pace. But there is so much information. LV Yongchang stopped at the door of the laboratory. The door slowly opened. He turned around and gave Mao Zhengxi a confident smile. Don't worry, give me a week. After that, he strode out of the laboratory. 0. Sort all the information in chronological order. LV Yongchang's voice gradually faded away. Mao Zhengxi stood there blankly. I'm stupid. He wouldn't want to start learning the biotechnology of Proxima civilization. Now, the door of the office suddenly opened. Professor Su Yutong's voice was full of doubts. Didn't you say you were going to the biological laboratory? LV Yongchang walked quickly to his desk, then raised his head and glanced. Seeing that it was Su Yutong, he gently pulled the corner of his mouth and showed a faint smile. Something urgent, he said concisely. Please help me close the office door when you leave. By the way, don't let anyone disturb me unless it's important. Su Yutong was stunned. I didn't say I was going out, but at this time, Lu Yongchang had already focused all his attention on the holographic projection in front of him. Looking at Lu Yongchang's focused expression, Su Yutong suddenly stopped what she was saying. She had seen Lu Yongchang like this countless times, so she naturally knew how to deal with it. She turned around quietly and walked towards the office door. The door slowly opened. She walked out of the office and closed the door gently. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298, 100,000 Possibilities. A week flies by. Apart from getting the necessary food, Su Yutong never saw the door in front of him open. She gently placed the bag of space food in her hand at the door of the room, stretched out her hand, and knocked lightly on the door. Professor, it's lunchtime. As usual, there was no response. Su Yutong didn't have any surprises, shrugged and prepared to leave. According to her past feeding experience, it is estimated that this food will not be brought in for at least another hour or two. But today's situation seems to be slightly different. As soon as she turned around, she heard the sound of the office door opening behind her. Su Yutong was stunned for a moment, then subconsciously turned to look at the door. I saw Lu Yongchang's face was haggard, but his eyes were shining brightly. Teach, Professor. Su Yutong called in a low voice. Perhaps it was Su Yutong's voice that woke up Lu Yongchang, who suddenly stopped moving forward. Tong, Lu Yongchang glanced in the direction of Su Yutong and said in an extremely hoarse voice, I want to go to the biology laboratory. With that said, he walked towards the door. Be careful. Su Yutong shouted softly. Professor, your lunch. Lu Yongchang step paused again. He looked down, and this time, he finally saw the lunch placed at the door. Lunch? Forget it, let's eat later. Lu Yongchang's eyes flashed with anxiety and excitement. By the way, Ling, is Mao Zengzi in the laboratory? Tell him that I have a solution. As he spoke, he tried to bypass the bags of food in front of him. But soon, he stopped his movements again. There is no other reason. He saw Su Yutang's eyes glaring at him. After struggling for a while, Lu Yongchang chose to follow his heart. He silently bent down and picked up the bag of space food. Ahem. I suddenly realized I was a little hungry. A trace of embarrassment flashed across his face, and he quickly put the packaging bag into his pocket. I'll take it to the biology laboratory to eat. Okay, Su Yutang did not speak, but silently moved out of the way. Outside the biology laboratory. Mao Zengzi ran towards the laboratory door in a hurry. How is it possible? It really took just 1 week to solve it. Are you kidding me? As he hurried on, he whispered something in his mouth. Suddenly, he stopped in his tracks at the main entrance of the laboratory. A familiar figure caught his eye. It's just that this image. Mao Zengzi looked at Lu Yongchang in front of him with a strange expression. Professor, what are you doing? Huh? Lu Yongchang, with messy hair on his head, holding 2 space food bags in his hands and a bag of drinking water in his mouth, raised his head and looked at him in confusion. Seeing Mao Zengzi, Lu Yongchang's swallowing movements obviously sped up. Choked. Lu Yongchang's face turned slightly red, and he took a sip of drinking water. Professor, it's not that serious. It's not that serious. Just eat slowly. Mao Zengzi walked up to Lu Yongchang with a wry smile, stretched out his hand and patted his back gently. Call after. Lu Yongchang swallowed the last bit of food in his mouth. He breathed a sigh of relief and murmured to himself, the mission has been completed. Mission? Mao Zengzi looked at Lu Yongchang with confusion. Ahem. It's nothing. You came just in time. I can confirm that the technology tree of the Proxima Centauri civilization is absolutely crooked. Their biotechnology far exceeds other disciplines. As Lu Yongchang spoke, he quietly stuffed several bags in his hands into a special trash can nearby. Inside the biology laboratory. Mao Zengzi looked at the holographic projection in front of him silently. In the holographic projection, the familiar human gene sequence is on the left. On the right is the genetic sequence of Proxima Centauri. The genes of Proxima Centauri are very different from our genes. Among them, the biggest obstacle that hinders us is their base pairing principle. As Lu Yongchang spoke, he stretched out his hand to operate the holographic projection. Based on their research data, I found out some basic similarities between the genes on both sides. Interoperability? Mao Zengzi was slightly startled. That's right. Lu Yongchang shrugged. For example, like us, they are all creatures that perform aerobic respiration through these basic genes, and with the help of the research data of the Proxima Centauri civilization, I found a corresponding rule for the genes on both sides. And telomerase-like synthetic genes can also be transformed accordingly through this corresponding rule. As Lu Yongchang finished speaking, the complex gene and the holographic projection changed slightly. Rotate, disperse, reorganize. After a series of corresponding changes, a brand new genetic sequence appeared in front of them. Different from the original. This genetic sequence has a very familiar shape to Mao Zengzi, but before Mao Zengzi could be happy, Lu Yongchang's voice sounded again. Because the genetic structure of Proxima Centauri is somewhat different from ours, many possibilities arise. At that time, we may have to make some attempts. Mao Zengzi breathed a sigh of relief. Isn't it just luck and trial and error? What's the point? By the way, what are the possibilities? Probably more than 100,000 species. As soon as the words fell, the holographic projection instantly enlarged, and more than 100,000 gene sequences were all displayed in front of Mao Zengzi's eyes. Mao Zengzi, you call this some experimentation? He swallowed slightly. I think this task may be 100 million points difficult. Complaints? Our complaints at this point in the experiment, there were millions of possibilities, and they had to bite the bullet and try their luck. Point as for the experimental method, it's actually very simple. Point just insert these base pairs into the E. coli gene. Point then, it is to see whether these E. coli can survive. Point only E. coli that can survive normally can enter the next screening process. Observe whether the inserted base pairs are functioning properly, synthesizing that special telomerase-like enzyme. Point the idea is good, but the reality is cruel. Point more than 2 months have passed. Point they had only completed the first step of the experiment. Point this was also done with the help of zero. Point however, there is good news, at least the choices they faced have shrunk by 99%. There were originally more than 100,000 possibilities, but now only more than 1,000 are left. Point Lu Yongchang and Mao Zengzi didn't have time to take a breath, so they started the second step of the experiment. Point over time, one sample after another was eliminated. Point in the end, what was left before them was the only possibility. Point Lu Yongchang took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Let's start the inspection." Mao Zengzi took out the sample with slightly trembling hands and prepared to start the inspection work. Point this is the last sample. Point failure means that more than 2 months of their time have been wasted. Chapter 299 Immortality Enzyme. The entire inspection procedure seemed to be ingrained in their minds. After Mao Zengzi completed all the operations smoothly, he stood aside with an anxious look, waiting for the test results. It was quiet in the laboratory. Point even Lu Yongchang was looking at the holographic image in front of him with a troubled expression. Point time passed slowly, minute by minute. Point the projection interface suddenly changed. Point telomerase-like enzyme detected. Good. Mao Zengzi whispered softly, "We finally succeeded." Lu Yongchang also breathed a sigh of relief and reached out to wipe the sweat on his forehead. Point unlike the telomerase-like substances in the human body of Proxima Centauri, the telomerase-like substances synthesized by E. coli are pure terrestrial life substances. Although the two have the same function, their structures and components are very different. In order to distinguish it, let's call it longevity enzyme from now on. Lu Yongchang looked at the sample in front of him, his face full of expectation. Next, as long as it is verified that this enzyme can play a role in living organisms, humans can make a break through. The lifespan of the race is at its limit. Mao Zengzi was stunned. "How are you going to solve the problem of cell cancer?" Lu Yongchang chuckled. "Although we don't have the magical organs like Proxima Centauri, don't forget, we have medical cabins and nanorobots. At that time, as long as the medical cabin and nanorobots are used for regular body examinations, we can naturally kill cancer from the root, just like the people in Proxima Centauri." Mao Zengzi suddenly understood, tapped his head lightly with his hand, and laughed at himself softly. "Look at my brain. I was really stupid in doing the experiment, and I forgot such an important technology." Lu Yongchang didn't pay much attention. Point blind spots in thinking are common to everyone. The next step is biological testing. Upon hearing this, Mao Zengzi's expression suddenly became a little stiff. "Professor, have you forgotten something very important? We don't currently have organisms to experiment with." Hearing this, Lu Yongchang was stunned. Point soon he reacted. Point when leaving Mars, all organisms except humans will exist in the form of reproductive cells or genetic samples. Not only does this save space, it also saves you a ton of hassle. Point for example, the huge overload during acceleration and deceleration, the necessary supplies to maintain their lives. Although they have a large number of germ cells of mice, they can reproduce them in this universe with the help of test tube baby technology. Point but that takes a lot of time. Point at least with the remaining lifespan of the congressman, he cannot wait for the results of this test to come out. Point Lu Yongchang's face suddenly turned ugly. "Professor," Mao Zengzi asked in a low voice, "how about I start thawing the gene pool of the mice now?" Lu Yongchang thought for a moment and nodded slowly. "The zero gravity environment in space will have some impact on the growth and development of mice. Send a few Zhuan-2 to the surface of Proxima Centauri B for cultivation." Mao Zengzi responded, turned around and left in a hurry. Point Lu Yongchang looked at Mao Zengzi's back and murmured in a low voice, "I hope the chairman of the assembly can hold on for a while longer." Earth Calendar year 2148. Just as the first batch of mice were about to come out of the cage, a piece of bad news came. Professor, the chairman's physical condition is deteriorating rapidly. A holographic projection suddenly opened in front of Yongchang. Zero's avatar tuck shape instantly. He quickly reported. 5 minutes ago, the chairman of the congressman was sent to the medical cabin, and the rescue is currently in progress. Yongchang's expression changed drastically. He quickly unlatched the magnetic device on the chair, stood up and walked towards the office door. How many people know about this? Zero responded quickly. At present, only you and Mr. Han Kaiming know. Well done. Yongchang walked out of the door and walked directly towards the room of the council chairman. Block the news and never let others know the status of the council chairman. Receive. Yongchang suppressed the anxiety and uneasiness in his heart and quickened his pace again. Why can't I hold on at this critical moment? Although Yongchang is only responsible for managing the Academy of Sciences as the chief scientist, he also knows a thing or two about what is happening in the parliament. The Proxima Centauri civilization has been completely eliminated. Under Zero's control, ground bases and various mining devices are being constructed simultaneously. As the construction progress of these infrastructures continues to advance, Yongchang also ordered the launch of the thawing plan. Those who were in hibernation, people from all walks of life, began to wake up in batches correspondingly. All members of the parliament also walked out of the hibernation cabin. In the months since Mr. Lui addressed the issue of lifespan caps, there has been turmoil within parliament. Although these congressmen don't know how long the congressman's long life will be, they can see with their naked eyes the declining physical condition of the congressman, especially when the Speaker of Parliament keeps handing over his work to Han Kaiming. Yongchang believed that once the news about the president's accident was known to these members, the entire parliament would be shaken. The rear is unstable and the front is tight. Something wrong with the parliament will inevitably affect the development plan formulated by Yongchang. The current human civilization is not like before. In the solar system, the solar crisis constantly stimulates the fragile nerves of human beings. When entering the Proxima galaxy for the first time, the war with the Proxima civilization seems to be a sword of Damocles hanging over the heads of human beings. The current human civilization will not face too much trouble, at least in the next few decades. Even if Proxima goes out, it is enough to spend a period of peace with the resources in the star system. But Yongchang knows that even so, human civilization is still like an acrobat walking on a tightrope. Once you take a wrong step, the fate of Proxima civilization will be a lesson for you. The reason is very simple. According to Zero's calculations, the resources in the Proxima galaxy only allow humans to spend 100 to 150 years of stable development. Once too many resources are consumed here, humans will become frogs in warm water. There is no way to get out of this star system unscathed. Yongchang, the familiar and hurried shout interrupted his thoughts. Yongchang stopped abruptly, raised his head, and looked forward. It was Councillor Han Kaiming. He hadn't seen him for a long time, and his face was full of anxiety. Perhaps because of the excessive pressure during this period, Han Kaiming had several huge blisters on his mouth and a few white hairs on his head. Member Han, LV. Yongchang walked closer quickly, looked around and asked in a low voice, how is the situation of the chairman of the parliament? Han Kaiming sighed hard and shook his head helplessly, not optimistic. Even if we can survive this time, I don't think there will be much time left. LV. Yongchang's heart sank, and he asked again, what about the work in the parliament? Han Kaiming sighed again, it's still a little bit. The election meeting for the second chairman of the parliament will start in a month. Chapter 300. I refuse. Hearing Han Kaiming's words, Yongchang sighed slightly. It's so embarrassing to be stuck at this point in time. If the mice can be released from the cage in advance, or the election meeting can be held in advance, but there are no ice in the world. Time can only flow forward, never backward. Yongchang, is there anything you can do? Han Kaiming hesitated for a while and asked in a low voice, you should know that Albert has been coveting this position for a long time. If something happens to the chairman, I guess the parliament will. Yongchang frowned and reached out to gently rub his eyebrows. There is a way. During this period, Mao Zengzi and I have been studying technology in this area. Han Kaiming's eyes suddenly lit up, and his breathing became faster. Technology. For longevity. How long can your life be extended? Looking at Han Kaiming's expectant eyes, Lu Yongchang smiled bitterly and shook his head. Failed. Han Kaiming's face darkened. To be precise, I don't know. Lu Yongchang sighed again. I won't go into details about the process. In short, we inserted part of the Proxima Centauri gene into E. coli, and these E. coli can secrete a special protein we call longevity enzyme, which can repair the lost telomere material of the chromosome. This will allow humans to break through the original lifespan limit. Han Kaiming, his eyes were full of confusion, and he said awkwardly, can you put it more simply? Theoretically, we have succeeded. Lu Yongchang shrugged. According to preliminary calculations, the longest human lifespan will be extended to 600 to 800 years. Fuck. Han Kaiming trembled and exclaimed in a low voice, so long. In his expectation, increasing the maximum lifespan by 50 years was already the limit point, but he never expected that Lu Yongchang's scientific research results would actually increase the maximum lifespan of human beings to a terrifying level. While being astonished, Han Kaiming's eyes flashed with joy. Then, wouldn't the chairman of the assembly be saved? Lu Yongchang shook his head again. It's not that simple. Lu Yongchang looked directly into Han Kaiming's confused eyes and explained, currently, we have not conducted any animal experiments, and all data only exist in theory. Han Kaiming's expression dimmed instantly. He knew what it meant. Without the support of experiments, all this would be like a mirror, and no one knows whether this so-called longevity enzyme can play a corresponding role. Professor, Counselor Han, the chairman has woken up. Zeros avatar appeared next to the two of them and said softly. Hearing this, Lu Yongchang looked solemn, winked at Han Kaiming, and walked towards the room of the chairman of the council. Han Kaiming was not a fool and immediately understood what Lu Yongchang meant. He slowed down a bit and followed Lu Yongchang into the room. Inside the room, the door of a 2-meter long medical cabin slowly opened. The white-haired congressman huddled up in the huge medical cabin. Perhaps because of his posture, the congressman's long body looked particularly thin. Lu Yongchang glanced at the various data displayed on the holographic projection, and his heart became a little heavier again. It's almost time to wake up. But he is probably on his deathbed. Not to mention the election meeting in a month. It's hard to hold on even for a week. Cough. A faint cough came from the medical cabin. President, how do you feel? Han Kaiming quickly stepped forward, squatted in front of the medical cabin, gently held the congressman's withered and thin right hand with bulging veins, and asked in a low voice. The congressman's eyelids trembled slightly when he heard the voice, and he opened them with difficulty. His cloudy eyes glanced at Han Kaiming beside him. Perhaps because he had just woken up, the chairman's movement seemed particularly slow. He didn't even notice Lu Yongchang standing a few steps away. After a pause, the old man nodded slightly. Kaiming, I'm fine. Help me out. There are still some tasks to be assigned to you. Seeing the old man's frail appearance, Lu Yongchang's eyes showed a bit of unbearability. President, he shouted in a low voice. The old man paused slightly. Then he turned his head and looked in the direction of Lu Yongchang. Seeing Lu Yongchang, the old man's eyes lit up slightly, but soon dimmed again. Yongchang, why are you here? It's a joke for you. It seems like my body won't survive until the end. The old man smiled bitterly and laughed at himself. I guess I will leave you with another mess. Lu Yongchang opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but was interrupted by the trembling movements of the chairman of the council. No need to comfort me. I know my own body well. Han Kaiming is a good candidate, but he currently lacks ability. I'm afraid he won't be able to suppress those old foxes after I die. When the time comes, I hope you can help him then. After speaking, the old man looked at Lu Yongchang expectantly. Lu Yongchang pursed his lips hard. At this moment, he made a choice in his heart. He shook his head slowly. Sir, I refuse. I'm not very good at parliamentary stuff. You Should teach counselor Hang in person. The old man sat in the medical cabin, staring at Lu Yongchang blankly. Obviously, he did not expect Lu Yongchang to reject his request. Without giving the old man a chance to speak again, he reached out and dragged the holographic projection beside him, adjusting its position. Chairman, now, let me introduce you to the latest research results of the Academy of Sciences, longevity, enzyme, 10 minutes later. The old man sat in the medical cabin, looking at Lu Yongchang with a slightly hurried breath. Are you serious, Lu? Yongchang nodded solemnly. Absolutely true. Although I cannot increase your lifespan to more than 600 years, I believe that, as long as the experiment is successful, you can at least witness the birth of the second chairman of the council. A blush flashed across the old man's withered cheeks. The dry hands that supported the wall of the medical cabin trembled slightly. Good, 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 the old man exclaimed repeatedly. He took a deep breath, slowly closed his eyes, and quickly opened them again. Yongchang, start the experiment. At this moment, the old man's eyes were extremely firm. Speaker, are you sure? LV. Yongchang licked his dry lips gently and said in a slightly hoarse voice, at present, the longevity enzyme has not undergone any biological tests, and I can't judge it. Okay. The old man raised his hand and interrupted Lu Yongchang's words. I have thought about it, whether it is for the stability of the human union or for the future of mankind. If my old bones can still contribute the last bit of light, I will die without regrets. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.